The chamber is open and full of whispers.
What if the most famous boy wizard in literature had fallen in love with his best friend? What if instead of the canon pairings we know, Harry with Ginny Weasley, Hermione with Ron Weasley, the boy who lived and the brightest witch of her age, had discovered that their partnership ran deeper than friendship, that the trust forged through basilisks and time-turners and Horcrux hunts was actually the foundation of something more profound? This isn't a story about rejecting canon. It's about examining what was always there in the text. The undeniable chemistry between Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, the way they functioned as a perfect unit, the moments where their connection transcended ordinary friendship, and asking, what if they'd acted on it? Today we're exploring one of the most emotionally complex what-if scenarios in Harry Potter fandom. We'll examine how a romantic relationship between Harry and Hermione would fundamentally alter the emotional landscape of the series, how it would affect Ron Weasley's character arc, how it would change the war against Voldemort, and most importantly, why this pairing isn't just plausible. It's supported by the canon text itself. This is a story about two people who've always chosen each other, in every meaningful moment, finally acknowledging that their bond is love, not the comfortable familiar love of canon, but something fiercer, something that makes them both braver and more vulnerable, something worth fighting for. Because some love stories aren't written in grand declarations. Some are written in the quiet moments, holding hands under a hospital bed, teaching each other spells in abandoned classrooms, dancing in a tent while the world burns outside. So let's explore what happens when Harry Potter and Hermione Granger fall in love, when chaos meets logic, when courage meets brilliance, when two people who've survived the impossible together realize that survival isn't enough. They want to live. Together. The catalyst end of third year. The Forbidden Forest was dark and cold, but Harry Potter barely noticed. His mind was racing, his heart pounding, as he and Hermione crouched behind a massive oak tree, watching his past self and Sirius being attacked by Dementors near the lake. "We have to do something," Harry whispered urgently, his hand instinctively finding Hermione's in the darkness. "They're going to die. I'm going to die." "Wait," Hermione said, her fingers tightening around his. "Harry, look. Someone's coming. Someone's going to cast the Patronus." They watched. The Dementors swarmed closer. Harry's past self collapsed. And then, nothing. No mysterious savior appeared. No silver stag erupted from the trees. "No one's coming," Harry realized, the truth hitting him like ice water. "Hermione, no one's coming. It was me. I cast the Patronus. I thought I saw my dad, but it was me all along." He stood before Hermione could stop him, stepping out from behind the tree, raising his wand toward the Dementors that were now dangerously close to draining both Sirius and his past self. "Harry, wait." But Harry was already casting, his voice ringing clear across the lake. "Expecto Patronum." The silver stag erupted from his wand with such force that Hermione actually stumbled backward. It was magnificent, huge and bright and powerful, charging across the lake, scattering the Dementors like leaves before a storm. Harry stood transfixed, watching his own Patronus save himself, watching the impossible become real. And then he felt Hermione's hand on his shoulder, grounding him, reminding him they weren't done yet. "That was extraordinary," she breathed, her voice full of wonder and pride. "Harry, I've never seen anything like that. That was a fully corporeal Patronus. Most wizards can't manage that until they're adults, and We did it," Harry corrected, turning to face her. In the silvery light of his fading Patronus, Hermione's face was illuminated, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Hermione, we did it. We saved Sirius, we saved Buckbeak, we changed time itself, and we did it together." Something passed between them in that moment, a recognition that went beyond friendship, beyond partnership. They just accomplished the impossible, not because either of them could have done it alone, but because they functioned together with a synchronicity that was almost magical in itself. Hermione had provided the strategy, the planning, the understanding of temporal mechanics that made the rescue possible. Harry had provided the courage, the instinct, the raw magical power that turned theory into reality. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. "We should get back," Hermione said quietly, but she didn't move. Neither did Harry. They stood there in the forest, hands still clasped, the enormity of what they'd accomplished settling over them like a warm blanket. "Thank you," Harry said, "for believing me, for helping me, for being here." Ron was unconscious the whole time, and I know that sounds awful, but Hermione, I'm glad you were the one with me. I trust you more than anyone. Hermione's breath caught. Harry, I mean it. You're the bravest, smartest, most brilliant person I know. And I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd manage, Hermione said, but her voice was unsteady. You're Harry Potter. You always manage. I don't want to just manage. I want... Harry stopped, suddenly aware that he was saying too much, feeling too much, standing too close to Hermione in the darkness, with emotions running higher than he knew how to handle. We should go, Hermione said again, and this time they did move, but slowly, reluctantly, neither quite wanting to break the moment. They made it back to the hospital wing just as Dumbledore had instructed, slipping into the room where Ron still lay unconscious, where Madame Pomfrey was fussing over Sirius's injuries. Did it work? Ron mumbled groggily, finally waking up. Did you save him? Yes, Harry and Hermione said simultaneously, then looked at each other and smiled. How did you... What happened? Ron asked, trying to sit up and wincing as his broken leg protested. It's a long story, Harry said. We'll tell you everything. But Ron, we did it. Sirius is free. Buckbeak is safe. Everything worked. Brilliant, Ron said, then frowned slightly as he noticed how close Harry and Hermione were standing, how their hands were still almost touching, how they kept glancing at each other with small private smiles. You two are acting weird. I think we're entitled to act a bit weird. But Ron was right. Something had shifted. In those hours in the forest, facing danger together, trusting each other absolutely, Harry and Hermione had crossed some invisible line. They weren't just friends anymore. Or rather, they were more than friends in a way neither quite understood yet. Summer before fourth year, the slow realization. Harry spent the summer at the Dursleys thinking about Hermione. This wasn't new. He thought about both Hermione and Ron constantly during the summers, missing them, counting down the days until he could return to Hogwarts. But this year felt different. This year, when he thought about Hermione, his chest felt tight in a way that had nothing to do with the Dursleys' terrible cooking or the heat of his tiny bedroom. He kept replaying the moment in the forest, the way Hermione had looked at him after he'd cast the Patronus, the way her hand had felt in his, small and warm and strong, the way she'd said his name with such pride and affection that it made him want to do impossible things just to hear her say it again. He wrote to her 3 times a week, which was more than he wrote to Ron, and tried not to analyze why. Hermione wrote back faithfully, her letters full of book recommendations and questions about how he was being treated by the Dursleys, and casual mentions of things she'd been reading about Patronuses and time magic and advanced defensive spells. I've been researching fully corporeal Patronuses, one letter read, and Harry, what you did was extraordinary. The spell requires such a powerful happy memory that most witches and wizards can't manage it until their 20s. What memory did you use? If you don't mind my asking. I'm curious about the mechanics of it. Whether the strength of the memory correlates to the strength of the Patronus, or whether it's more about the caster's innate magical ability. Harry had stared at that letter for a long time before responding. The truth was, his happy memory had been the moment of realization. Standing in the forest with Hermione, understanding that they'd succeeded together. That memory, so fresh and powerful, had fueled the Patronus more effectively than any memory from his childhood. But he couldn't write that, could he? It felt too revealing, too raw. Instead, he wrote, I thought about the moment when I realized we'd actually done it. Saved Sirius and Buckbeak. That feeling of knowing we'd succeeded. I think that was the happiest I've been in a long time. It was true, even if it wasn't the whole truth. Hermione's next letter came within 2 days. That makes sense. The relief and joy of accomplishing something important would definitely be powerful enough. And Harry, I felt the same way. That moment when your Patronus appeared, and we knew everything would be okay, that was one of the best moments of my life. Harry read that sentence approximately 17 times, trying to decode whether Hermione meant it the way his ridiculous, hopeful brain wanted her to mean it. Meanwhile, Ron's letters were their usual cheerful chaos. Quidditch news, complaints about his brothers, excitement about the upcoming Quidditch World Cup that his father had somehow gotten tickets for. Mum says you can come stay with us before school starts, Ron wrote in late July. Dad got tickets to the World Cup Ireland versus Bulgaria. It's going to be incredible. Hermione's coming too. Can you imagine? The 3 of us at the actual World Cup, Harry wrote back immediately, accepting the invitation with perhaps more enthusiasm than was strictly warranted. He told himself, It was about the Quidditch World Cup, about seeing his best friends again after a long summer. He was lying to himself, and he knew it. He wanted to see Hermione. The Burrow. August before fourth year. Harry arrived at the Burrow via flu powder on a warm August evening, and was immediately engulfed in chaos. Mrs. Weasley was fussing over him, asking about the Dursleys and whether he was eating properly. Ron was pulling him toward the stairs to show him something in his room. The twins were arguing about some business venture. Ginny was watching from the corner with her usual wide-eyed silence whenever Harry was around. And then Hermione appeared in the kitchen doorway, and Harry's entire world narrowed to just her. She'd changed over the summer. Or maybe he was just seeing her differently. Her hair was still bushy and unmanageable, her front teeth still slightly too large, though less so than before. He vaguely remembered something about her parents being dentists and doing some work on them. But something about the way she smiled when she saw him made Harry's stomach do an uncomfortable flip. "Harry!" She crossed the kitchen quickly and hugged him, which was normal. Hermione was affectionate with her friends. But when she pulled back, her hands lingered on his arms for just a moment longer than necessary, and her eyes held his with an intensity that made him forget how to breathe properly. "Hi," he managed, feeling supremely stupid. It's good to see you. You too. How was the rest of your summer? Did the Dursleys treat you terribly? Your letters didn't say much about them." "They were their usual charming selves," Harry said dryly. "But it's fine. I'm here now." Right then, Ron interrupted, clearly oblivious to whatever weird tension was happening between Harry and Hermione. "Harry, you've got to see what Fred and George have been working on. It's mental. Come on." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation for the Quidditch World Cup. Harry found himself watching Hermione more than he should, noticing how she laughed at Ron's jokes, how she helped Mrs. Weasley with cooking despite having no real skill in that area, how she spent hours reading in the garden with the sun, making her hair look almost golden in places. He also noticed that she watched him too. He'd catch her looking at him across the dinner table, or when they were all sitting around talking about Quidditch, and when their eyes met, she'd smile slightly and look away, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Ron noticed none of this. Ron was busy being excited about the World Cup and teasing Ginny and arguing with the twins about everything under the sun. The night before they left for the World Cup, Harry couldn't sleep. He was sharing Ron's room, lying on a camp bed while Ron snored in his actual bed, but sleep wouldn't come. His mind kept turning over the same questions. What was happening between him and Hermione? Was he imagining the way she looked at him? Did she feel this same strange pull, this awareness that hadn't existed before? Around midnight, he gave up on sleep and crept downstairs, thinking he'd get some water and maybe sit in the garden for a bit. He found Hermione in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a cup of tea and a book. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked quietly, looking up as he entered. "Too excited, I guess," Harry said, which was partially true. He got himself water and sat down across from her. "What are you reading?" "A book about the history of the Quidditch World Cup. I thought I should understand what all the fuss is about." She smiled. "Did you know that the first World Cup was in 1473? And that there was a match in 1809 that resulted in all the players being turned into ducks? They never did figure out who cast the spell." Harry laughed. "That's very you, reading educational books about Quidditch instead of just enjoying it." "I can do both," Hermione said, a bit defensively. "Understanding the history makes it more interesting, not less." "I know, I wasn't making fun of you. I think it's one of the things I like about you. The way you want to understand everything." Hermione set down her book, her expression softening. "Really? Ron thinks it's annoying." "Ron thinks everything's annoying when it involves reading," Harry said. "But no, I don't think it's annoying. I think it's brilliant. You're brilliant, Hermione." She ducked her head, that blush appearing again. "You're just saying that." "I'm not. I mean it. You're the smartest person I know, and you're brave too, even though you pretend you're not. Remember when you went back in time with me? You were terrified, but you did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. That's courage. I wasn't that brave. You're the one who cast the Patronus. You're the one who figured out the whole plan. You're the one who understood how time travel works. I just did what you told me to do." "That's not true." "It is true, Hermione. We work well together. You have to know that. The way we just fit, like puzzle pieces or something equally stupid and sentimental." Hermione laughed, and the sound made Harry's heart do that uncomfortable flipping thing again. "Puzzle pieces? That's your metaphor?" I said it was stupid, Harry defended, but he was smiling too. But you know what I mean. I do, Hermione said quietly. We do work well together. Better than I work with most people. You don't make me feel like I'm too much, too loud or too bossy or too— You're not too anything, Harry interrupted. You're exactly right. And anyone who makes you feel like you're too much is an idiot. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and then Hermione said very softly, Harry, can I ask you something? Always, in the forest, when we saved Sirius, you said you didn't know what you'd do without me. Did you mean that? Harry's heart was pounding now. Yes, every word. I feel the same way. About you, I don't know what I'd do without you either. You're my best friend, but you're more than that. And I don't know if that's normal or if I'm reading too much into things. But Harry, when I think about you, She stopped, seeming to realize she was saying too much, revealing too much. Harry reached across the table and took her hand, the same way he had in the forest. I think about you too, all the time. And Hermione, I don't think you're reading too much into things. I think maybe we've both been feeling this for a while and just didn't know what to call it. What do we call it? Hermione whispered. Harry didn't have an answer. He was 14 years old and had never had a real conversation about feelings with anyone, let alone with the girl who made him feel like he could cast impossible Patronuses and face down Dementors and survive anything as long as she was beside him. I don't know, he admitted. But Hermione, I know I don't want this to be weird between us. I don't want to lose you as a friend because I've gone and developed It's not stupid, Hermione said firmly. And Harry, you're not going to lose me. Ever. No matter what this is or becomes, you're not losing me. Promise? I promise. They sat there holding hands across the kitchen table until they heard movement upstairs and reluctantly pulled apart, both suddenly aware that if Ron came down and found them like this, there would be questions neither was ready to answer. We should probably get some sleep, Hermione said, standing up. The World Cup is tomorrow, and Ron will never let us hear the end of it if we're too tired to enjoy it properly. Yeah. Sleep. Harry stood too, not quite ready to let this moment end, but not knowing how to extend it either. Hermione stepped closer, rose on her tiptoes, and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. Good night, Harry. Then she was gone, disappearing up the stairs before Harry could process what had just happened. He touched his cheek where she'd kissed him, and smiled like an idiot all the way back to Ron's room. The Quidditch World Cup. The disruption. The Quidditch World Cup was everything Ron had promised and more. The excitement, the spectacle, the sheer magical chaos of thousands of wizards gathered in one place. It was overwhelming in the best way. Harry found himself sitting between Ron and Hermione in the top box, courtesy of Mr. Weasley's ministry connections, watching Ireland's chasers execute impossibly coordinated plays, while Bulgaria's seeker Victor Crumb prowled the sky looking for the golden snitch. He's incredible, Ron breathed, watching Crumb execute a perfect Wronski feint. Did you see that? That's the most dangerous move in Quidditch, and he just— Bloody hell, Harry. You should try that sometime. I'd rather not kill myself, thanks, Harry said, but he was grinning. The match was spectacular. Beside him, Hermione was trying to follow the game while also reading her book about Quidditch history, occasionally asking questions that made Ron groan but that Harry found endearing. Why do they call it a quaffle if it's used in scoring? Shouldn't it be called something more aggressive? Hermione wondered. Hermione, it doesn't matter what it's called, Ron said, exasperated. Just watch the match. I am watching. I'm just also curious about the etymology. Of course you are. Harry caught Hermione's eye and she smiled back. And for a moment the whole stadium faded away. It was just the two of them sharing this secret understanding, this awareness that something fundamental had shifted between them. Ireland won, 1-7-0, 1-6-0, when Crumb caught the snitch, but Ireland's lead was too great. The celebration was immediate and overwhelming. Irish flags everywhere. Leprechauns and Velas dancing, music and laughter and magical fireworks lighting up the sky. They stumbled back to their tents hours later, exhausted and happy and hoarse from cheering. Harry fell asleep thinking about Hermione's smile, about the way she'd grabbed his hand during a particularly tense moment in the match, about the kiss on his cheek that he could still feel like a brand. He woke to screaming. At first he thought he was dreaming, that he was back at the Dursleys, and Aunt Petunia was shrieking about something. But then he heard Mr. Weasley shouting and Ron scrambling out of bed. And Harry realized this was real. Outside the tent, chaos reigned. Masked wizards were marching through the campsite, levitating terrified muggles, the campsite manager and his family, into the air. People were running everywhere, screaming, grabbing their belongings and trying to flee. Death Eaters, Mr. Pappy asked, Weasley said grimly, his wand already drawn. Ron, Harry, Hermione, get into the woods. Stay together. Don't come out until you get the all clear. They ran. The three of them, along with the twins and Ginny, plunged into the dark forest surrounding the campsite. Around them, other wizards were doing the same. Families fleeing, children crying, the sounds of spells and screaming echoing through the trees. This way, Ron panted, leading them deeper into the woods. We need to find somewhere to hide. Wait, Hermione gasped. Ginny! Where's Ginny? They all stopped looking around. Ginny Weasley was nowhere to be seen. She was right behind us, Fred said, his face pale in the darkness. She was right. We have to go back, Hermione said immediately. We can't leave her. Hermione, it's too dangerous. Ron protested. Dad said to stay in the woods. Your sister is out there alone. Hermione's voice was sharp with fear and anger. We're going back. Harry made the decision in an instant. Ron, you and the twins keep going. Get to safety. Hermione and I will find Ginny. Harry, no, Ron, we don't have time to argue. Go. We'll be fine. He grabbed Hermione's hand and they ran back the way they'd come, toward the screaming and the chaos and the dangerous masked figures who were terrorizing innocent people for sport. They found Ginny huddled behind an overturned tent, frozen with terror as a Death Eater approached. Without thinking, without planning, Harry raised his wand and shouted, Stupefy! The spell hit the Death Eater squarely in the chest. The man went down hard. Ginny, run! Hermione screamed. Back to the woods now! Ginny scrambled to her feet and ran. Harry and Hermione were right behind her, but more Death Eaters were converging on their position now, attracted by the spellfire. Protego! Hermione cast a shield charm that deflected a stunning spell aimed at Harry's back. Harry, we need to. The world exploded in green light. The dark mark rose into the sky above them. A massive skull with a serpent protruding from its mouth like a tongue. It blazed against the darkness, casting everything in an eerie emerald glow. Hermione grabbed Harry's arm. We have to go. Now. That's Voldemort's mark. They ran blindly through the forest, Ginny somewhere ahead of them, the sounds of Ministry wizards apparating in to confront the Death Eaters echoing behind them. They didn't stop until they reached a clearing where other refugees from the campsite had gathered. Ron and the twins were there, and Mr. P. Weasley arrived moments later, looking haggard and furious. You found her, he said with relief, seeing Ginny. Then he noticed Harry and Hermione were holding hands, both breathing hard, both looking shaken. Are you two all right? You didn't get hurt? We're fine, Harry said. We stunned a Death Eater who was going after Ginny. Then we ran when the mark appeared. Mr. Kravna, Weasley's expression shifted from relief to concern. You stunned a Death Eater? Harry, that was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. You could have been killed. Ginny could have been killed, Hermione said quietly. We couldn't leave her. Mr. Weasley looked at them both for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. Thank you, both of you. That took real courage. Later, back at the Burrow, they'd portkeyed back immediately. The World Cup campsite was a crime scene now. Harry and Hermione sat in the garden while the adults tried to make sense of what had happened inside. That was terrifying, Hermione said quietly. Harry, when I saw that Death Eater approaching Ginny, I couldn't think. I could only react. I know. Me too. I didn't even think about what spell to use. I just cast the first thing that came to mind. We could have died if more Death Eaters had reached us before we ran, but they didn't, and we didn't. Hermione, we're okay. She turned to face him, her eyes suspiciously bright. I was so scared. Not for myself, but for you. When you ran back toward the campsite, I thought, what if something happens to him? What if I lose him before I ever tell him? She stopped, biting her lip. Tell me what? Harry asked gently. That I care about you, more than I probably should. More than is sensible or practical or… Harry, I'm not very good at this. At feelings and romance and all of that. Books don't prepare you for what it feels like when someone looks at you the way you look at me sometimes. Harry's heart was racing. How do I look at you? Like I matter. Like I'm not just the smart girl who helps with homework. Like you see me, really see me, and you like what you see. I do, Harry said. Hermione, I do see you. And I more than like what I see. I don't know the right words for this. I've never felt this way about anyone before. But when we were running from the Death Eaters, all I could think was that I needed to keep you safe, that if something happened to you because of me, I'd never forgive myself. It wouldn't be because of you. Being around you is my choice, Harry, and I'd make that choice every time, even knowing the danger. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what they were admitting settling over them. This is going to complicate things, Hermione said finally. With Ron, with school, with everything. I know. But I don't want to pretend it's not happening. I'm tired of pretending. Me too. So what do? Harry considered this. We take it slow. We figure out what this is together. We don't make a big announcement or anything, but we also don't lie about it. If people ask, if Ron asks, we tell the truth. The truth being that we care about each other. That we're figuring things out. That we're, what, together? Dating? Is that what we're doing? Hermione actually laughed at that. I have no idea. I've never dated anyone before. Neither have I. We'll just have to figure it out as we go. Very Gryffindor of us. You're a Gryffindor too, remember? Sometimes I think the hat got it wrong. I should have been in Ravenclaw. The hat doesn't get it wrong, Harry said firmly. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. With me. Hermione smiled, and Harry felt that same warm flip in his chest that he was starting to recognize as what he felt whenever she smiled at him specifically. They sat together in the garden until Mrs. Weasley called them in for a very late dinner, and when they walked back to the house, their hands found each other as naturally as breathing. Neither of them saw Ron watching from an upstairs window, his expression troubled and confused. Fourth year begins. The Hogwarts Express journey was different this year. Usually, Harry, Ron, and Hermione would share a compartment, catching up on summer news, buying treats from the trolley, complaining about homework they should have done. It was comfortable and familiar and theirs. This year, the comfortable familiarity had an edge of tension that Harry couldn't quite identify. Ron seemed quieter than usual. He kept looking between Harry and Hermione with an expression Harry couldn't read, not quite suspicion, not quite jealousy, but something in between. So, Ron said eventually, after they'd exhausted the topic of the Quidditch World Cup and the Death Eater attack, you two have been writing to each other a lot this summer. We always write during the summer, Hermione said, looking up from her book. Yeah, but more than usual. Mum mentioned it. Said Harry's owl was at our house 3 times a week at least. Harry felt his face heating up. We were just talking. About the summer, about what happened at the World Cup, about stuff. Stuff, Ron repeated. Right? What kind of stuff? Why does it matter? Hermione asked, and there was a slight edge to her voice now. We're friends. Friends write to each other. I'm your friend too, and you didn't write to me 3 times a week. You don't like writing letters. You've said so yourself. That's not the point. Then what is the point, Ron? The tension in the compartment had gone from slight to palpable. Harry shifted uncomfortably, trying to decide whether to intervene or let them work it out. The point is that you two have been acting weird since the World Cup. Actually, since before that. Since the end of last year. And I'm not stupid, even if you both seem to think I am. I can tell when something's different. We don't think you're stupid, Harry said quietly. Then tell me what's going on. Are you two, I don't know, are you dating or something? The word hung in the air. Harry and Hermione looked at each other, communicating silently in that way they developed. A glance, a slight nod, a mutual decision. We're figuring things out, Hermione said carefully. Harry and I, we care about each other, more than just as friends. And we're trying to understand what that means. Ron's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, hurt, anger, confusion. You're together. You're actually together. We're not. It's not like that, Harry tried to explain. We're not hiding it from you or anything. It's new. We're still figuring out what it is. How long? How long what? How long have you been figuring things out? Since the summer, Hermione admitted. Since the night before the World Cup, really. We talked and we realized, Ron, we care about you too. You're our best friend. This doesn't change that. Of course it changes that. Ron's voice was rising now. How can it not change things? My two best friends are dating each other, and I'm just, what? The third wheel? You're not a third wheel, Harry said firmly. Ron, you're our friend. That's not going to change just because Hermione and just because we're dating. You can say it. You're dating. Ron stood up abruptly. I need some air. I'm going to find Dean and Seamus. He left the compartment, sliding the door closed perhaps harder than necessary. Hermione and Harry sat in uncomfortable silence. That went well, Harry said eventually, trying for humor and failing miserably. He's hurt, Hermione said quietly. We should have told him earlier. Before he had to ask. Before he had to figure it out on his own. We didn't even know how to talk about it ourselves. How were we supposed to tell him? I don't know. But Harry, this is going to be complicated. Ron's feelings are hurt, and that's valid. We need to give him space to process this. I know. I wish he understood that this doesn't change how we feel about him. He's still my best mate. He'll come around, Hermione said, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. He just needs time. Ron did not, in fact, come around. Not quickly, anyway. For the next few weeks he was cordial but distant. He'd sit with them at meals, study with them in the library, participate in classes. But the easy camaraderie was gone, replaced by a careful politeness that was somehow worse than outright anger. Harry and Hermione tried to be understanding. They tried to give Ron space while also maintaining their friendship, but it was hard. Every time Harry reached for Hermione's hand, or Hermione smiled at Harry in that particular way, Ron would notice, and his expression would shudder. This is awful, Hermione said one evening in early October. They were sitting by the lake, ostensibly studying, but actually just talking while Ron was off at Quidditch practice. I hate that Ron's upset. I hate that we're the reason he's upset. We're not doing anything wrong, Harry said. We have a right to care about each other. To be together. That's not a betrayal of Ron. I know that intellectually. But emotionally? It feels like we're choosing each other over him. We're not choosing. We can care about both. Why can't he see that? Because he's 14 and his two best friends are dating and he feels left out. Harry, we have to be patient with him. I am being patient. But Hermione, I'm not giving you up to make him feel better. I can't do that. Hermione looked at him, her expression soft. I wouldn't want you to. And I won't give you up either. We have to hope he comes around eventually. And if he doesn't, then we deal with that if it happens. But Harry, I have faith in Ron. He's a good person. He's loyal and kind and he loves us both. Even if he's hurt right now, he'll work through this. Harry hoped she was right. The Triwizard Tournament. The Goblet of Fire. The announcement of the Triwizard Tournament brought a welcome distraction from the awkwardness with Ron. Suddenly, everyone was talking about the competition, about the visiting schools, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang, about the possibility of eternal glory. The Great Hall buzzed with excitement and speculation. You can't enter, Hermione told Harry firmly, when he mentioned it might be exciting to compete. You're only 14. The age line will prevent anyone under 17 from entering. I wasn't seriously considering it, Harry protested. I just said it would be exciting to watch. Good. Because the tournament is incredibly dangerous. People have died in past competitions. The last one was in 1792, and there's a reason they stopped holding it for 200 years. You've been reading about it. Of course I've been reading about it. Someone needs to understand what we're getting into. We're not getting into anything. We're just watching. Still, it pays to be informed. When the Goblet of Fire was revealed, a wooden cup filled with dancing blue flames enchanted to select the 3 champions, Harry felt a strange pull toward it. Not a desire to enter, exactly. More like a premonition that the goblet would somehow involve him, whether he wanted it to or not. He pushed the feeling aside. He was 14. He couldn't enter even if he wanted to. The age line Dumbledore had drawn around the goblet would prevent it. The delegations from Beauxbatons and Durmstrang arrived in spectacular fashion. One by flying carriage pulled by giant winged horses, the other by ship that rose from the Black Lake. Harry watched with everyone else, marveling at the magic involved. Among the Durmstrang students was Victor Krum, the seeker from the World Cup. He looked even more intimidating up close. Tall, dark, scowling, radiating an aura of competence that made him seem older than 17. That's Krum, Ron breathed, starstruck. That's actually Victor Krum. He's sitting at our table. This is the best day of my life. Harry noticed with some amusement that Crumb wasn't sitting anywhere near Ron. He was, in fact, sitting at the Ravenclaw table, talking to some seventh years. But then Harry noticed something else. Crumb kept glancing toward the Gryffindor table, specifically toward Hermione. He's looking at you, Harry said quietly. Hermione looked up from her dinner. What? Who? Crumb. He keeps looking over here. Don't be ridiculous. Why would Victor Crumb be looking at me? I don't know, but he is. Hermione glanced toward the Ravenclaw table, caught Crumb's eye, and quickly looked away, her cheeks pinking. He's not. Harry, you're being silly. Am I? Over the next few days, it became clear that Harry wasn't being silly. Victor Crumb, international Quidditch star and Durmstrang champion candidate, was interested in Hermione Granger. He approached her in the library one afternoon while she was researching for a potions essay. You are Hermione Granger? His English was accented but clear. Hermione looked up, startled. Yes. And you're Victor Crumb? I am. I see you reading often. In library. You like books? Yes, I like books. I like learning. This is good. Many students only care about Quidditch or parties. It's refreshing to meet someone who cares about knowledge. He smiled slightly. Would you like to study together sometimes? I am practicing my English. You could help. Hermione blinked. You want me to help you with English? If you have time. I understand if you are busy. But I think you are an interesting person. I would like to know you better. Before Hermione could respond, Harry appeared at her elbow, having witnessed the entire exchange from across the library. Hermione and I usually study together, Harry said, his voice carefully polite but with an undercurrent of territoriality he couldn't quite suppress. But maybe we could all study together sometime. Crumb's dark eyes assessed Harry with the same intensity he used to spot snitches. You are Harry Potter. I am the boy who lived. I have heard many stories. Most of them are probably exaggerated, perhaps. Crumb's attention returned to Hermione. But yes, 3 people studying is also good. When would you like to arrange this? They made plans for later in the week, and Crumb departed with a slight bow. As soon as he was out of earshot, Harry turned to Hermione. He was asking you out. He was asking me to study together. That's not the same thing. Rest. Hermione, he was definitely asking you out. Well, you invited yourself along, so it's not exactly a date now, is it? That was the point. I wasn't going to let Victor Crumb, international Quidditch star who's probably dated dozens of girls, just swoop in and what, Harry? Ask me to study? How dare he? But Hermione was smiling now, clearly amused by Harry's jealousy. Are you saying you don't want me to study with Crumb? I'm saying I don't want you to study with Crumb alone. There's a difference. Harry Potter, are you jealous? Maybe a little, Harry admitted. Is that terrible? It's a bit possessive. But also, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek quickly, a bit sweet. But Harry, you don't have to worry about Victor Crumb. I'm with you. That's not changing just because some Quidditch star shows interest. Promise? I promise. Though I am going to study with him, because it would be rude not to. And because you'll be there to glower protectively the whole time. I don't glower. You absolutely glower. It's quite intimidating, actually. Good. Maybe Crumb will think twice about asking you out if I'm glowering nearby. Or maybe he'll just think you're constipated. Hermione. She laughed, and Harry felt the jealousy ease slightly. Hermione was right. She'd chosen him. Whatever interest Crumb had was irrelevant. Still, when Crumb's name came out of the goblet as Durmstrang's champion, Harry felt a stab of competitive irritation. Now Crumb wasn't just an international Quidditch star. He was also a Triwizard champion. What did Harry have to compete with that? The answer came the next evening, when the goblet of fire spat out a 4th name. Harry Potter. Harry stared at the slip of parchment in Dumbledore's hand, certain he'd misheard. What? Harry Potter. Dumbledore repeated, his voice grave. Did you put your name in the goblet of fire, Harry? No, I didn't. I couldn't have. The age line. Someone must have entered your name, Professor McGonagall said, her voice sharp with concern and anger. Albus, this is clearly a violation. Nevertheless, the goblet has chosen. A binding magical contract has been formed. Harry must compete. The next hour was a blur. Harry was taken to a side room with the other champions. Fleur Delacour from Beauxbaton, Cedric Diggory from Hufflepuff, and Victor Crumb. Officials explained the rules, the dangers, the fact that Harry's participation was mandatory. Through it all, Harry could only think, someone entered me. Someone wants me in this tournament. Someone is trying to, what? Kill me? Wouldn't be the first time. When he finally emerged from the meeting and returned to Gryffindor Tower, he found Hermione waiting by the portrait hole. Is it true? She asked, her face pale. Harry, did you? I didn't enter. I swear, Hermione. Someone else put my name in the goblet. I don't know who or why, but I didn't do this. She believed him instantly, without question. We'll figure out who did this. We'll research binding magical contracts. We'll look into who had access to the goblet. Hermione. Harry took her hands. I'm scared. She pulled him into a tight hug right there in the corridor, not caring who saw. I know. I'm scared too. But Harry, we'll get through this. We always do, together. Together, Harry agreed, holding her tightly and trying not to think about the fact that the Triwizard Tournament had killed people in the past, and someone had deliberately entered him despite knowing he was only 14 and completely unprepared. Someone wanted him in danger. The question was, why? The first task, Dragons and Devotion. The weeks leading up to the first task were some of the most miserable of Harry's life. The entire school had turned against him. Most students believed he'd somehow cheated his way past the age line to enter the tournament, desperate for more fame and glory. The Hufflepuffs were particularly hostile. Cedric was their champion, the one who'd been legitimately chosen, and Harry was seen as stealing his spotlight. Even worse than the general student body was Ron. Ron had barely spoken to Harry since the names came out of the goblet. He'd moved his belongings to the far side of their dormitory, arranged his schedule to avoid Harry as much as possible, and made pointed comments about attention-seeking whenever Harry was in earshot. He thinks you entered yourself, Hermione said one evening in the library, where they'd retreated to avoid the hostile stares in the common room. I tried to talk to him, to explain that you couldn't possibly have gotten past Dumbledore's age line, but he won't listen. He's jealous, Harry said bitterly. He thinks I wanted this. Like I wanted to be entered into a deadly competition where I'll probably die horribly just for, what? More fame I didn't ask for? He's being irrational. But Harry, jealousy isn't rational. He sees you getting attention again, getting chosen for something special, and all he can think about is how he's always second best to you. That's not fair. I never asked to be famous. I never asked to be in this tournament. And he's not second best. He's my best friend. Or he was. Harry's voice cracked slightly on the last word. Hermione reached across the table and took his hand. He'll come around. Once he realizes how dangerous this is, once the first task happens and he sees you're genuinely at risk, he'll remember that he loves you more than he resents you. You sound very sure of that. I am sure. Because I know Ron. He's stubborn and insecure, and sometimes his jealousy makes him stupid. But underneath all of that, he's loyal. He won't abandon you when it really matters. And what if he does? Then you'll still have me, Hermione said firmly. Always. Harry, I don't care if the entire school turns against you. I don't care if Ron never speaks to you again. I will be here, every single day, helping you survive this tournament. Do you understand? Harry felt something loosen in his chest, a tension he'd been carrying since his name came out of the goblet. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And Harry. She glanced around to make sure they were alone, then leaned across the table and kissed him quickly, softly, on the lips. It was their first real kiss, and it made Harry's entire world narrow to just the two of them. We're going to get through this. Together. Together, Harry agreed, his voice slightly dazed. The first task was dragons. Harry discovered this through Hagrid, who'd drunkenly let it slip and then made Harry promise not to tell anyone. Harry had immediately told Hermione, of course. They told each other everything now. Dragons, Hermione repeated, her face pale. Harry, dragons are classified as XXXX by the Ministry. That's known wizard killer, impossible to train or domesticate. You're 14. How are you supposed to fight a dragon? I don't know. I haven't exactly covered dragon fighting in Defense Against the Dark Arts. We need to research. We need to find out everything about dragons, their weaknesses, their behaviors, what spells might work against them. Hermione, I have 3 days. I can't become a dragon expert in 3 days. Then we focus on your strengths. What are you good at, Harry? What's your best skill? Flying. I'm good at flying. Hermione's eyes lit up with that particular gleam that meant she'd had an idea. Then that's what we do. You summon your firebolt and you outfly the dragon. You don't fight it directly. You use your speed and maneuverability to get past its defenses and grab whatever you need to grab. The summoning charm is fourth-year material. I've never successfully summoned something from that far away. Then we practice. Harry, we have 3 days. We're going to practice the summoning charm until you can summon your broomstick from Scotland if necessary. They practiced obsessively. Every spare moment was spent in empty classrooms, with Hermione placing objects progressively farther away and Harry practicing Accio. By the night before the first task, Harry could summon his firebolt from across the castle with reasonable reliability. You're ready, Hermione told him as they stood outside the Great Hall the evening before the task. Around them, students were heading to dinner, but neither Harry nor Hermione had much appetite. I don't feel ready. I feel terrified. Harry, you've faced worse than this. You've faced a basilisk. You've faced Dementors. You've faced Voldemort himself. Twice. You can face a dragon. A basilisk I killed by accident. The Dementors I needed help with. And Voldemort? I survived Voldemort through luck and my mother's protection. This is different. This is me. Alone, with no backup, facing a creature that's designed to kill wizards. You're not alone, Hermione said fiercely. I'll be in the stands. I'll be watching every second. And Harry, she grabbed his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. You're going to survive this. Do you hear me? You're going to summon your firebolt, you're going to fly past that dragon, and you're going to get through this task. And then you're going to come back to me. I promise, Harry said, even though he had no idea if it was a promise he could keep. Hermione kissed him then, properly, desperately, right there in the corridor, where anyone could see. She kissed him like she was trying to memorize the feel of him, like she was terrified this might be the last time. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. Don't die tomorrow. Please, Harry. Don't die. I won't. I'll come back, I promise. The first task was even more terrifying than Harry had anticipated. The dragon, a Hungarian horntail, one of the most dangerous breeds, was massive and hostile, its black scales gleaming in the November sun, its yellow eyes fixed on Harry with unmistakable malice. Around the arena, hundreds of students and staff watched, screaming and gasping as Harry summoned his firebolt and shot into the air, barely avoiding a jet of flame that would have incinerated him. Flying felt like coming home. The moment Harry was airborne, his fear crystallized into focus. This was what he was good at. This was where he had the advantage. He flew circles around the horntail, forcing it to turn and snap and waste energy. He feinted left, dove right, climbed vertical, did every Quidditch maneuver he knew. The crowd roared. The dragon roared louder. And then Harry saw his opening. The dragon had turned to track his flight, exposing the nest where a golden egg sat among real dragon eggs. Harry dove, faster than he'd ever flown in his life, grabbed the egg, and shot back into the air before the horntail could react. The crowd exploded in cheers. Harry landed, clutching the golden egg, his hands shaking with adrenaline. The first person to reach him was Hermione. She collided with him so hard they both nearly fell over, her arms wrapping around him, her face buried in his shoulder. She was crying and laughing simultaneously, saying his name over and over like a prayer. I'm okay, Harry said, holding her tightly. Hermione, I'm okay. I did it. You were brilliant, she sobbed. You were so brilliant. That dive at the end, Harry, that was the most terrifying and amazing thing I've ever seen. Madame Pomfrey pulled them apart to examine Harry for injuries. He'd sustained some minor burns and a cut on his shoulder from a falling rock, but nothing serious. The crowd of well-wishers pressed close. Students who'd hated him an hour ago were now congratulating him, patting his back, telling him how amazing he'd been. Through the crowd, Harry caught Ron's eye. Ron was standing apart from everyone else, his expression complicated, part pride, part shame, part lingering resentment. Their eyes met for a moment, and then Ron turned and walked away. He'll come around, Hermione said quietly, watching Ron leave. Give him time. Harry nodded, but his attention was already shifting to the golden egg in his hands. Whatever clue it contained would tell him what the second task involved, and knowing the tournament organizers, it would probably be just as deadly as facing a dragon. The Yule Ball, the turning point. The announcement of the Yule Ball brought a different kind of terror to Hogwarts. the terror of having to ask someone to dance. All champions are required to have partners for the opening dance, Professor McGonagall explained during a transfiguration lesson. Mr. Potter, I trust you'll be able to secure a date? Harry caught Hermione's eye across the classroom and saw her trying not to smile. After class, they walked together toward the library, maintaining a careful distance in the crowded corridors, but finding reasons to let their hands brush. So, Hermione said, a teasing note in her voice, are you going to ask me to the Yule Ball, or should I start accepting one of the 7 invitations I've received this week? Harry stopped walking. 7? Well, 6 if you don't count Ron. Which I don't because his invitation was, you're going with me, right? Which isn't actually asking. Who else asked you? Terry Boot, Michael Corner, Ernie Macmillan, Anthony Goldstein. 2 Durmstrang boys whose names I didn't catch, and Victor Crumb. Harry's stomach dropped. Crumb asked you to the ball? Yesterday in the library, he was very polite about it. Said he'd been wanting to ask for weeks, but wasn't sure if I was available. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Hermione watched Harry's face carefully. I was waiting for a better offer. Hermione Granger, Harry said, stopping in the middle of the corridor and taking both her hands, not caring who saw. Would you go to the Yule Ball with me? Not as friends? As my girlfriend. As the person I care about more than anyone else in the world. As my date. Hermione's smile could have lit the entire castle. Yes. Obviously yes. Though I have to say, that took you long enough. The ball is in 2 weeks, Harry. I was starting to worry you'd never ask. I was building up courage. Asking someone to a ball is terrifying. More terrifying than a dragon? Different kind of terrifying. Dragons just want to kill you. Rejection would be worse? You're ridiculous, Hermione said affectionately. But yes, I'll go to the ball with you, on one condition. What condition? You have to tell Victor Crumb I'm going with you. I don't want to be the one to disappoint him. You want me to tell Crumb, international Quidditch star and fellow Triwizard champion, that you're going with me instead of him? Is that a problem? No, Harry said, feeling a surge of competitive satisfaction. No problem at all. I'll tell him today. He found Crumb in the library that afternoon, exactly where Hermione had said he'd be. The Durmstrang champion was reading a thick book on defensive magic, his expression intensely focused. Crumb, Harry said, approaching the table. Can I talk to you for a minute? Crumb looked up, his dark eyes assessing. Harry Potter. Sit. What do you want to discuss? Harry sat, suddenly feeling awkward. How did one tell another guy that his crush was taken? I wanted to talk to you about Hermione. Hermione Granger. The clever girl? What about her? She's my girlfriend. We're together. So when you asked her to the Yule Ball, I wanted you to know that she's going with me. Crumb's expression didn't change much, but something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or resignation. I see. You are together how long? Since the summer. A few months now. And this is serious? You care for her? Very serious. Yes, I care for her. A lot. Crumb nodded slowly. Then, I understand. Hermione is special girl. Very smart, very kind. I am not surprised you chose her. And I am... He seemed to search for the word. I am glad she has someone who cares for her properly. You will treat her well, yes? Of course. Good. Because if you do not see, if you hurt her, I will hex you. Even if you are fellow champion. Even if you are famous Harry Potter. It was said without heat, just a simple statement of fact. Harry actually smiled. Fair enough, but you don't have to worry. I have no intention of hurting her. We never intend to hurt people we care for, but we do it anyway sometimes. Crumb closed his book and stood. I wish you both happiness. And Harry, you flew well against the Horntail. I was impressed. Thanks. Your summoning charm to get past the Swedish short snout was brilliant too. They parted on surprisingly good terms. Harry felt a grudging respect for Crumb. The older boy had taken the rejection with grace and hadn't made things awkward or competitive. The 2 weeks before the ball passed in a blur of preparation. Hermione recruited Parvati and Lavender to help her find dress robes, though she refused to tell Harry what she'd chosen. You'll see on the night, she said mysteriously. Harry got dress robes from Mrs. Ares. Weasley, they were dark green and actually fit properly, unlike the horror stories he'd heard from Ron about maroon velvet. You're going with Hermione. Ron said one evening, his first direct words to Harry in weeks. They were in the dormitory, and Ron's tone was carefully neutral. Yes. Are you two actually dating, or is it just for the ball? We're dating. Have been since summer. Ron was quiet for a long moment. And you didn't think to tell me? I tried to tell you on the train. You walked out before we could really explain. Because you ambushed me with it. My two best friends, dating each other, and I had to figure it out myself instead of you just telling me straight out. We didn't know how to tell you, Harry said honestly. We were still figuring out what it meant ourselves. We didn't want to make a big announcement before we were sure. And you're sure now? Yes. Ron, I care about Hermione. I know that's weird because she's your friend too. And I know it changes the dynamic of the trio. But I won't apologize for it. She makes me happy. And I think I make her happy too. Ron sat on his bed, his expression unreadable. Does she make you happier than Quidditch? The question was so unexpected that Harry actually laughed. What? It's a scale. How happy things make you. Does she rank higher than Quidditch? Yes. Definitely yes. Higher than defeating Voldemort would make you? Ron, that's not comparable. Just answer the question. If you had to choose between defeating Voldemort and being with Hermione, which would you choose? Harry thought about it seriously. I'd choose Hermione. Because defeating Voldemort is about saving everyone. But Hermione she's about having a reason to want to save everyone. She's about having something to fight for that's not just duty or destiny. She's about being happy, Ron. Really happy, in a way I've never been before. Ron nodded slowly. Okay? That's okay. I get it, I think. I don't like it. I'm still jealous, and I still feel left out, and I still think you should have told me sooner. But I get it. You and me? We're getting there. Harry, I need time. I can't just flip a switch and be fine with this. But I don't want to lose you as a friend. Either of you. So I'm trying. That's all I can ask, Harry said quietly. Thanks, Ron. Yeah. Don't expect me to be all happy and supportive right away. I'm still mad. But I'm less mad than I was. Progress, Harry thought. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. The night of the Yule Ball arrived. Harry waited in the common room, his dress robes feeling uncomfortably formal, his hands sweating with nervousness. Around him, other students were gathering. Dates meeting up, friends taking photographs, everyone chattering excitedly about the evening ahead. And then Hermione descended the stairs from the girls' dormitory. Harry's brain stopped working entirely. She was wearing robes of periwinkle blue that made her eyes look impossibly bright. Her hair, usually bushy and untamable, had been sleekened and styled into an elegant knot at the back of her head. She looked beautiful, not in a distant, unattainable way, but in a way that made Harry's chest tight with the realization that this brilliant, beautiful girl had chosen him. Hermione, he managed. You're... Wow, she smiled, clearly pleased by his reaction. You clean up pretty well yourself. I like the green. It matches your eyes. I can't believe you're going with me. Where else would I be? She took his arm, and they walked down to the great hall together, aware of every eye following them, aware of the whispers. There's Harry Potter. Is that Hermione Granger? She looks amazing. I heard they've been dating since summer. Lucky get, Potter. The great hall had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Ice sculptures glittered in the corners. The ceiling showed a night sky full of stars. The usual house tables had been replaced by smaller, more intimate tables covered in silver and white. Harry and Hermione joined the other champions and their dates. Fleur Delacour was with Roger Davies from Ravenclaw. Cedric Diggory was with Cho Chang, which gave Harry a slight pang. He'd thought Cho was pretty before he'd realized what he felt for Hermione. And Victor Crumb was with a sixth-year Ravenclaw girl Harry didn't know, though Crumb kept glancing toward Hermione with obvious regret. He's still looking at you, Harry murmured as they sat down. Let him look. I'm here with you. The feast was spectacular. The dancing that followed was less so. Harry was not a natural dancer, and he spent the first few songs trying not to step on Hermione's feet. Relax, Hermione laughed as they swayed to a slower song. You're too tense. Just here. Let me lead for a bit. I'm supposed to lead, says who? Harry, we're partners. We take turns leading. That's how we work. She was right. Once Harry stopped worrying about doing everything correctly and just moved with Hermione, dancing became easier. Not graceful, exactly, but comfortable. They talked while they danced. About the tournament, about classes, about Ron's gradual thawing, about everything and nothing. "This is nice," Harry said eventually. "Being here with you. Everyone knowing we're together. Not having to hide. We were never really hiding, we just weren't advertising. You know what I mean? This feels official. Like we're really a couple now, not just two people figuring things out." "We are really a couple," Hermione said firmly. "We have been for months. The ball doesn't change that." "I know. But it feels different. Good different." Around midnight, they slipped away from the ball and walked out to the grounds. It was cold but clear, the stars brilliant overhead, frost glittering on the grass. "I should figure out the egg," Harry said, breaking the comfortable silence. "The second task is in February. I need to know what the clue means." "You've tried opening it?" "Once. It made a horrible wailing sound, like someone screaming. I have no idea what it means." "We'll figure it out," Hermione said confidently. "We always do." "But Harry, tonight, can we just be us? Can we just be two people at a ball, enjoying being together, without worrying about deadly tasks or mysterious clues?" "Yeah," Harry agreed, pulling her closer. "Yeah, we can do that." They stood together in the cold, watching the stars, and for one perfect moment, Harry forgot about the tournament, about Voldemort, about all the dangers waiting for him. He was just Harry, standing with Hermione, feeling happier than he could remember being in his entire life. He kissed her then, properly, the way he'd been wanting to all evening. She kissed him back, her hands in his hair, standing on her tiptoes to reach him better. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Hermione smiled. "Happy Christmas, Harry. Happy Christmas, Hermione." They walked back to the castle hand in hand, and if anyone saw them and gossiped about it later, neither of them cared. The second task. Depths of devotion figuring out the egg's clue took longer than it should have. Harry tried everything, opening it in different locations, casting various spells on it, even asking it politely to make sense. Nothing worked. The horrible wailing continued, offering no comprehensible information. "It's not a language," Hermione said, after their seventh attempt at deciphering the sound. "Or if it is, it's not any human language I've encountered. Maybe it's meant to be heard differently? Underwater, perhaps? Merpeople communicate underwater. Maybe that's why it sounds like screaming in air." "That's brilliant," Harry said, "but how do I test that? I can't exactly breathe underwater." "The prefect's bathroom. It has a huge bathtub. You could fill it and try submerging the egg." Getting into the prefect's bathroom required borrowing Cedric Diggory's password. Cedric gave it freely, apparently feeling guilty about the first task and wanting to help Harry since they were both Hogwarts champions. Harry snuck up late one night, filled the enormous tub, and submerged the egg. Underwater, the wailing transformed into an eerie but beautiful psalm. "Come seek us where our voices sound, we cannot sing above the ground. And while you're searching, ponder this. We've taken what you'll sorely miss. An hour long you'll have to look. And to recover what we took, but past an hour, the prospect's black. Too late, it's gone, it won't come back." Harry surfaced, his mind racing. Merpeople. The lake. Something he'd sorely miss. But what? He discussed it with Hermione the next day in the library. "What you'll sorely miss," Hermione repeated, her brow furrowed in thought. "That's vague. What do you miss? What's important to you? My firebolt? My wand?" Mylady stopped, a horrible realization dawning. "Hermione, what if it's not a thing? What if it's a person?" Hermione went pale. "You think they'll take a person? That someone will be put in the lake for you to rescue? The song says, 'We've taken what you'll sorely miss.' If they're trying to make the task personal, trying to make it emotionally difficult, taking someone I care about would definitely do that. But who? Your godfather is in hiding. The Dursleys certainly don't qualify as people you'd miss." "Who else?" Hermione stopped, her eyes widening. "Harry, who would you miss most?" Their eyes met, and Harry felt his stomach drop. "You," he said quietly. "I'd miss you most. Hermione, if they take you, then you come get me." "Harry, it's a task. They're not actually going to hurt anyone. It's probably a magically induced sleep or something. But if I'm underwater waiting for you, then you have to be prepared to rescue me. I don't know how to breathe underwater for an hour. Then we research. We find out every possible method of underwater breathing, and we pick the most reliable one. Harry, we have 2 months. That's plenty of time." They researched obsessively. Bubblehead charms, complicated but possible. Transfiguring gills, extremely advanced and dangerous. Potions that allowed temporary underwater breathing, expensive and required ingredients they couldn't easily obtain. And then, 3 days before the second task, Dobby the house elf appeared in the library with a handful of slimy gray-green plant matter. "Gillyweed!" the elf squeaked. Dobby heard Harry Potter needs to breathe underwater. "Gillyweed will make Harry Potter breathe like a fish, sir." "Gills and flippers and everything?" Harry stared at the plant. "Where did you get this?" "Professor Snape's private stores, sir." "But Dobby did not steal. Dobby borrowed. Dobby will return what Harry Potter doesn't use. Dobby, you can't just take ingredients from Snape's stores. Dobby will do anything to help the great Harry Potter, sir. Gillyweed will last 1 hour exactly. Just enough for the task." After Dobby left, Hermione examined the gillyweed carefully. "He's right. This would work. It's a simple solution. You eat it, you grow gills, you can breathe underwater. When it wears off, you return to normal. Should I trust a plant that Dobby stole from Snape? Do you have a better option with 2 days to go?" Harry didn't. The morning of the second task was gray and cold, the February wind whipping across the black lake. Harry stood on the dock with the other champions, trying not to think about the fact that Hermione had been missing since last night, taken by the tournament organizers and placed somewhere in the lake. Logically, he knew she was safe. This was Hogwarts. They wouldn't actually endanger students, but logic and emotion were different things, and Harry's emotions were screaming that Hermione was underwater and he needed to get to her now. The whistle blew. Harry shoved the gillyweed into his mouth, chewed frantically, it tasted horrible, and dove into the icy water. The transformation was instantaneous and deeply weird. His neck split open with gills. His hands and feet developed webbing. Suddenly, breathing water felt as natural as breathing air. Harry swam deeper, following the sound of ghostly singing. Around him, the lake was dark and full of strange creatures. Grindylows grabbing at his robes, mer-people watching from a distance, giant tentacles that might have belonged to the giant squid. He found the mer-people's village at the lake bottom, a collection of rough stone dwellings built around a central square. And in the center, tied to a statue, were 4 people floating in magically induced sleep. Ron Weasley, Crumb's hostage, Cho Chang, Cedric's, a young girl who must be Fleur's sister, and Hermione. Harry swam directly to Hermione, pulling out his wand to sever the ropes binding her. But then he noticed something wrong. None of the other champions had arrived yet. It was just him. Where were they? The task had started nearly 40 minutes ago. Had something gone wrong? The mer-people were watching him with unsettling intensity. Their leader, a particularly fierce-looking mermaid, gestured at Hermione and then pointed upward. "Take her and go." But Harry looked at the other hostages. Fleur's sister was so young, couldn't be more than 8, and Ron was his best friend, even if things had been weird between them. And Cho was an innocent student who'd been dragged into this. He couldn't just leave them. "I'm taking them all," Harry said, though his voice came out as bubbles underwater. He pointed at each hostage and then upward, trying to communicate his intent. The mer-people looked confused. The leader shook her head emphatically. "Take your own hostage only." But Harry had made his decision. He cut Hermione free first, then Ron. He tried to cut the younger girl free, but the mer-people blocked him, their spears raised threateningly. "Please," Harry bubbled. "Her champion isn't coming. She'll be stuck here." One of the younger mer-people seemed to understand. She gestured to the others, arguing in their strange underwater language. Finally, reluctantly, they allowed Harry to cut the girl free. Getting 3 people to the surface when only one of them was conscious was nearly impossible. Harry grabbed Hermione with one arm, Ron with the other, and kicked frantically upward, the little girl somehow attached to Ron. Harry wasn't sure how that had happened. His gills were starting to itch. The gillyweed was wearing off. The surface seemed impossibly far away. Harry's lungs burned. His gills were definitely closing. He needed air, real air, not water. With a final desperate kick, Harry broke the surface, dragging all 3 hostages with him. Immediately, hands were pulling them out of the water. Teachers, officials, other students. Hermione woke up choking and confused. The moment she saw Harry, her expression shifted from confusion to relief. "Harry, you came. I knew you would. Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine. I was asleep the whole time." "Harry, you're freezing." Madame Pomfrey wrapped them both in blankets, fussing about hypothermia and exhaustion. Around them, the judges were arguing about points. Mr. Potter returned last, one judge said. That should cost him points. But he rescued 3 hostages instead of 1, another argued. That shows moral fiber and compassion beyond the task requirements. He also blatantly disregarded the rules. Dumbledore's voice cut through the argument. Mr. Gorbler, Potter demonstrated precisely the kind of courage and loyalty that Hogwarts values. I propose we award him full points for completing the task successfully, plus additional points for ensuring no hostage was left behind. The final scores put Harry in 2nd place overall, behind Cedric, but ahead of Crumb and Fleur, who'd been attacked by Grindylows and never reached the hostages. But Harry didn't care about points or standings. He cared that Hermione was safe, wrapped in blankets beside him, her hand finding his beneath the warmth. You saved Ron too, she said quietly. And Fleur's sister. Harry, you didn't have to do that. I couldn't leave them. What if something had gone wrong? What if the magic holding them failed? I couldn't take that risk. That's very you, saving everyone even when you only need to save one person. I had to make sure you were safe. That was the only thing that mattered. Hermione leaned against his shoulder, both of them shivering despite the blankets. When I woke up at the bottom of the lake, the first thing I felt was certainty that you'd come for me. I wasn't scared because I knew you'd never leave me down there. Is that silly? No, it's true. Hermione, I'd fight 100 mare people and swim through 1,000 Grindylows to get to you. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I feel the same way about you. Harry, if something had happened to you during that task disc, if you'd drowned or been attacked or I don't know what I would have done, nothing happened. I'm here. We're both here. Promise me you'll be careful in the 3rd task. Promise me you won't take unnecessary risks. Hermione, it's the Triwizard Tournament. Unnecessary risk is basically the point. Promise me anyway. I promise. I'll be as careful as possible. Good. Because Harry, She stopped, seemingly struggling with words. I love you. I know we're 14 and that probably sounds ridiculous, but I do. I love you. Harry's breath caught. You love me? Yes. Is that okay? I know it's fast and we're young, and people will say we're too young to know what love is, but Harry, I know. I love you. I love you too, Harry said, the words feeling both terrifying and absolutely right. I think I have for a while. I just didn't know how to say it. They sat together on the dock, wrapped in blankets, warming each other, while around them the tournament officials argued about points and rules and regulations. None of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was that they were safe, together, and they'd finally said the words that had been building between them for months. I love you. I love you too. Everything else was just details. The 3rd task, the maze and the truth. The weeks after the 2nd task were surprisingly peaceful. Harry was in 2nd place in the tournament, which meant less pressure than being in 1st. That was Cedric, but still a fighting chance at winning. The tasks were over until June, which gave him time to focus on normal things, studying for exams, playing Quidditch, spending time with Hermione. Ron had fully thawed in his attitude toward Harry and Hermione's relationship. He still made occasional awkward comments and he clearly felt like a third wheel sometimes, but he was trying. The 3 of them studied together again, sat together at meals, fell back into something resembling their old dynamic. It's different, Ron admitted one evening in the common room, you 2 being together. But different isn't always bad. I'm getting used to it. Thanks, Ron, Hermione said sincerely. That means a lot. Yeah, well, you're both my best friends. I'm not giving that up just because you're dating. Though I reserve the right to leave the room when you get too coupley. Fair, Harry agreed. The 3rd task was announced in May. A maze. The Triwizard Cup would be placed in the center, and the first champion to reach it would win the tournament. Seems simple enough, Ron said when they heard the announcement. You're good at thinking on your feet, Harry. You should do well in a maze. Unless the maze is filled with deadly creatures and dark magic, Hermione pointed out. Which, knowing this tournament, it definitely will be. She was right, of course. Over the next few weeks, the maze was grown on the Quidditch pitch, enormous hedges that towered 20 feet high, thick and impenetrable. Harry caught glimpses of creatures being led into the maze, blast-ended scroots, acromantulas, a sphinx. You'll need to know a lot of defensive spells, Hermione said, her organizational instincts kicking in. We should make a list of everything you might encounter and practice the appropriate counters. They spent hours in empty classrooms practicing shield charms against physical attacks, stunning spells against creatures, the point me spell for navigation, reductor curses for obstacles. You're as prepared as you can be, Hermione told him the night before the third task. They were sitting by the lake watching the sunset, both dreading and anticipating the next day. I don't feel prepared. I feel terrified. That's normal. But Harry, you've made it through 2 tasks already. You can make it through this one. What if I don't? What if something goes wrong? Then I'll come into the maze after you. Tournament rules be damned. Harry smiled despite his fear. You'd really do that? Without hesitation. Harry, I love you. I'm not letting you face danger alone if I can help it. I love you too. And Hermione, if I do win this tournament, if I actually get the cup, when you win, she corrected. When I win, then. It'll be because of you. All the preparation, all the strategies, all the support. That's all you. I couldn't have done any of this without you. We're partners, Hermione said simply. We do everything together. This is no different. The day of the third task dawned clear and bright. The stands around the Quidditch pitch were packed with students, staff, and spectators from around the wizarding world. The maze loomed in the center, dark and foreboding. Harry stood with the other champions, listening to Dumbledore explain the final rules. Cedric would enter first. He was in first place, followed by Harry, second place, then Crumb, then Fleur. Good luck, Cedric said quietly to Harry as they waited. And Harry, may the best man win. You too. The whistle blew. Cedric entered the maze and disappeared into the darkness. A few minutes later, Harry followed. The maze was immediately disorienting. The hedges blocked out most of the light and sound. Harry used the point me spell to orient himself toward the center. But the paths kept shifting, forcing him to recalculate constantly. He encountered a blast-ended Scroot within 10 minutes and had to use a stunning spell to get past it. Then a Boggart which turned into a Dementor. Harry cast a Patronus that filled the entire path with silver light. Then, something that might have been a giant spider, which Harry definitely did not want to face again after the Aragog incident in second year. He was deeper into the maze now. Close to the center, he could feel it. The magic pulling him toward the cup, toward the end of this task, toward victory. And then he heard screaming. It was coming from somewhere to his left. A girl's scream. Fleur, maybe? Had she encountered something she couldn't handle? Harry hesitated. If he went to help, he'd lose time. Someone else might reach the cup first. But he couldn't ignore someone in trouble. That wasn't who he was. He turned toward the screaming and ran. He found Fleur unconscious, surrounded by acromantulas. Harry cast stunning spells until the spiders scattered, then sent up red sparks to alert the officials that a champion needed extraction. Sorry, Fleur, he muttered, then turned back toward the center of the maze. He was close now. He could see the cup ahead, glowing golden in a small clearing. And running toward it from another path was Cedric Diggory. They reached the cup at exactly the same time. Take it, Cedric panted. You saved Fleur. You deserve it. You got here first, Harry argued. We both know you'd have reached it before me if I hadn't taken the detour. Then we take it together. Hogwarts victory. Both of us. Together, on 3. 1, 2, 3. They grabbed the cup simultaneously. The world jerked. A portkey. But the cup wasn't supposed to be a portkey. They landed hard on cold ground in a graveyard Harry had never seen before. Cedric scrambled to his feet, wand out, looking around in confusion. Where are we? This isn't... Kill the spare, a cold, high voice said. Green light. Cedric fell. Dead before he hit the ground. Harry screamed. Tried to reach Cedric, to help him, to do anything. But ropes appeared from nowhere, binding Harry to a headstone. His wand clattered away, out of reach. He struggled against the bonds, but they were magical, unbreakable. A figure emerged from the shadows. Peter Pettigrew carrying something grotesque and infant-like. A rudimentary body housing a soul that should have been destroyed 14 years ago. Welcome, Harry Potter, the thing in Pettigrew's arms hissed. So kind of you to join us. We've been waiting for you. What? What is this? What are you? All in good time. First, we have a ritual to complete. Pettigrew, begin. What followed was the most horrific thing Harry had ever witnessed. A cauldron filled with potion. Pettigrew adding ingredients with shaking hands. Bone of the father unwillingly given, a bone torn from the grave Harry was bound to. Flesh of the servant willingly sacrificed. Pettigrew cut off his own hand, screaming. Blood of the enemy forcibly taken, a knife cutting into Harry's arm, his blood dripping into the cauldron. The potion turned blood red. Steam rose, and from the depths of the cauldron a figure emerged, Lord Voldemort. Fully restored, tall and skeletal, with red eyes and a noseless, snake-like face. He looked at Harry with an expression of pure malice. At last, Voldemort said. 13 years. 13 years I've waited for this moment. And now, Harry Potter, now we finish what began in Godric's Hollow. Death Eaters began apparating. Lucius Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, others Harry didn't recognize. They formed a circle around the graveyard, watching with hungry anticipation. The boy who lived, Voldemort mused. How many times must you live, I wonder, before you learn to die properly? He released Harry from the headstone, but didn't return his wand. We're going to duel, Harry Potter. A proper duel this time. Show my Death Eaters how their master defeated the famous Harry Potter in fair combat. He tossed Harry's wand back to him. Harry caught it instinctively, his mind racing. Voldemort was toying with him. This wasn't a fair fight. Harry was 14, exhausted from the maze, terrified. Voldemort was the most powerful dark wizard in a century, freshly restored and eager to prove his dominance. But Harry had to try. For Cedric, for Hermione. For everyone Voldemort would kill if Harry failed. Bow to death, Harry, Voldemort said softly. It might even be painless. I would not know. I have never died. Harry raised his wand. I'm not bowing to you. Voldemort's eyes flashed with anger. Then you will die proud. Avada Kedavra. Green light shot toward Harry. He dove sideways, barely avoiding it. Stupefy! His spell missed by yards. Voldemort was too fast. Pathetic. Is that the best you can do? Crucio. Pain beyond anything Harry had ever imagined. Every nerve in his body on fire. He screamed, unable to help himself, curled on the ground while Voldemort laughed. When the curse lifted, Harry could barely think. He forced himself to his feet, raised his wand. Avada Kedavra, Expelliarmus. The spells collided mid-air. But instead of neutralizing each other, something impossible happened. Golden light erupted between their wands, connecting them, forming a cage of golden thread around both Harry and Voldemort. Priori incantatem. Harry knew the term from Hermione's lectures about wand lore. It happened when brother wands fought each other, forcing one wand to regurgitate the echoes of spells it had cast. Shadowy figures began emerging from Voldemort's wand. Recent deaths. An old man, Bertha Jorkins, Cedric Diggory, and then, Lily? James Potter's echo said. He's here. Harry's here. James? Lily Potter's echo appeared, looking at Harry with recognition and love. Oh, Harry, our son, you've grown so much. Couldn't process. His parents, or echoes of them, were right there. Hold on, Harry, James said. Hold the connection. When we've distracted him, run. Get to the port key. The cup. Get back to Hogwarts. Your father's right, Lily said. We'll hold him as long as we can, but you need to run. Live, Harry. Live for us. The echoes surged toward Voldemort, surrounding him, distracting him. Harry broke the connection and ran. Grabbed Cedric's body. He couldn't leave him here. Grabbed the cup. The port key activated. He landed on the Hogwarts grounds to cheering that turned to screaming when the crowd saw Cedric's body. Harry collapsed, still holding Cedric. And Hermione was there, pulling him away from the body, her face white with terror. Harry, what happened? Where were you? Why is Cedric? He's back, Harry said, his voice breaking. Hermione, Voldemort's back. He killed Cedric. He tortured me. He tried to kill me, but our wands, they connected, and my parents, they saved me. They told me to run. He was babbling. In shock, Hermione pulled him close, holding him while he shook. It's okay, she whispered. You're safe now. You're home. I've got you. But Harry knew, and Hermione would know soon too, that none of them were safe anymore. Voldemort had returned. The war had begun again, and nothing would ever be the same. 5th year, Order of the Phoenix. The summer after Cedric's death was the worst of Harry's life. The Dursleys were their usual terrible selves, but that barely registered. Harry spent his days trapped in his small bedroom, reliving the graveyard over and over. Cedric falling, Voldemort rising, his parents' echoes telling him to run. The nightmares were constant, vivid, inescapable. And worse than the nightmares was the isolation. Dumbledore had ordered Harry to stay at Privet Drive for his protection. The blood wards tied to Petunia kept him safe from Voldemort, but they also kept him cut off from the wizarding world. No visitors, limited owl post. Just Harry, alone with his trauma, trying to process the impossible. Hermione wrote to him every day. Long letters full of concern and love and desperate attempts to help him heal from a distance. "I wish I could be there with you," one letter read. "I know Dumbledore says you need to stay with your aunt for protection. But Harry, you shouldn't be processing this alone. What happened in that graveyard, watching Cedric die, being tortured, facing Voldemort, that's more than anyone should have to carry by themselves. Please write back. Tell me you're okay even if it's a lie. I need to know you're still in there." Harry wrote back, though his letters were shorter than hers, and probably more worrying than comforting. "I'm not okay. I keep seeing it, the green light, Cedric falling, Voldemort's face. But I'm managing. Barely. Your letters help. Knowing you're out there, thinking about me, caring about me, that's the only thing keeping me sane. I love you. Please keep writing." Ron wrote too, though his letters were more awkward, clearly wanting to help but not knowing how. "Mate, I can't imagine what you're going through. Mum says you can come stay with us soon, once Dumbledore gives the okay. We'll play Quidditch and eat too much, and you can tell us everything when you're ready." Hermione's been mental with worry, by the way. She's written you every day. She really loves you, Harry. Don't forget that. In mid-August, Harry was finally allowed to leave Privet Drive. Not to go to the Burrow as he'd hoped, but to number 12, Grimmauld Place, the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, a secret organization fighting Voldemort. The moment Harry stepped through the door, Hermione was there. She'd been waiting, and the second she saw him, she burst into tears. "You look terrible," she said, pulling him into a fierce hug. "Harry, you've lost weight. You're so pale. Had you been eating? Sleeping?" "Not much," Harry admitted. "Hermione, you don't have to explain. Just let me hold you for a minute, okay? I've been so worried." They stood in the hallway of Grimmauld Place, holding each other while the adults moved around them with knowing looks. After weeks of isolation and trauma, having Hermione's arms around him felt like coming home. "I missed you," Harry said into her hair. "So much." "I missed you too, Harry. We're going to get through this. Together, like we always do." The next few weeks at Grimmauld Place were strange. The house was full of Order members, Mad-Eye Moody, Remus Lupin, Sirius, the Weasleys, various Aurors and Ministry officials. They held meetings Harry wasn't allowed to attend. Discussed plans Harry wasn't privy to. Treated him like a child who needed protection rather than a witness to Voldemort's return. It was infuriating. "They're trying to protect you," Hermione said one evening when Harry complained about being excluded from yet another Order meeting. "They know you've been through something traumatic, and they want to shield you from more stress. I don't need shielding. I need information. I need to know what's happening, what Voldemort's doing, how we're going to fight him. Instead, I'm stuck here with Fred and George's extendable ears trying to eavesdrop on meetings about my own life. I know it's frustrating, but Harry, you can't control what the adults decide. You can only control how you respond." "Very wise. Very, Hermione. Still doesn't make it less infuriating." She smiled slightly. "I know. But Harry, while we're here, while we have time before school starts, I think we should talk. About what happened in the graveyard. About Cedric. About everything you've been carrying alone. I don't want to talk about it, I know you don't. But you need to. Harry, you're having nightmares every night. Ron told me. You wake up screaming. That's not healthy. That's not sustainable. What am I supposed to do? Just talk about it and magically feel better? No. But talking about it means you're not carrying it alone anymore. It means I can help. Harry, I love you. That means sharing the hard things, not just the good things. Please, let me help." So Harry told her about the graveyard in detail, the ritual, Voldemort's resurrection, the duel, his parents' echoes, about Cedric's death and the guilt Harry felt for suggesting they take the cup together, about the nightmares and the fear that he was going crazy because he could swear he felt Voldemort's emotions sometimes, could sense his presence like a dark shadow at the edge of his consciousness. Hermione listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was crying quietly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry that happened to you. And Harry, Cedric's death wasn't your fault. Voldemort killed him. Peter Pettigrew killed him. You tried to save him by bringing his body back. That took incredible courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like failure. That's survivor's guilt. It's normal after trauma. But Harry, you didn't fail. You survived. And I know that feels wrong, like you should have been able to save Cedric too. But sometimes survival is all we can manage. Sometimes living is the bravest thing we can do. What about the connection to Voldemort? The way I can feel his emotions sometimes? That's not normal. That's not trauma. That's something else." Hermione frowned thoughtfully. "You should tell Dumbledore about that. The connection might be residual magic from when Voldemort tried to kill you as a baby. Or it might be something created during the ritual when he used your blood. Either way, it's something Dumbledore needs to know about." Harry did tell Dumbledore, though the conversation was frustratingly brief. Dumbledore acknowledged the connection, told Harry he'd look into it, and suggested Harry learn occlumency, the art of protecting one's mind from invasion, as a precaution. "I'll arrange lessons," Dumbledore said. "Professor Snape is skilled in occlumency. He can teach you to close your mind to external influence." "Snape?" Harry repeated with disbelief. "You want Snape, who hates me, to teach me something that requires accessing my mind? I understand your reservations. But Severus is the most qualified teacher available, and the lessons are necessary. The connection to Voldemort poses a risk. You must learn to shield yourself." Harry agreed reluctantly, though he dreaded the lessons with every fiber of his being. The return to Hogwarts brought a new nightmare: Dolores Umbridge. The Ministry had appointed her as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and from her first lesson it was clear she had no intention of actually teaching defense. "You will be learning defensive theory from a carefully structured Ministry-approved curriculum," Umbridge announced in her sickly sweet voice. "Wands away. There will be no need to practice defensive spells in my classroom." Hermione's hand shot up immediately. "Professor, how can we defend ourselves if we never practice the spells? Miss Granger, you won't need to defend yourselves. The Ministry has everything under control. There are no threats that would require practical defensive magic." "What about Voldemort?" Harry said loudly. "He's back. I saw him return. Shouldn't we be preparing to fight Death Eaters?" The classroom went dead silent. Umbridge's smile never wavered, but her eyes went cold. "Potter, you will not tell lies in my classroom. The Ministry has investigated your claims and determined that you know who has not returned. Your traumatic experience in the maze led to delusions." "I'm not delusional. I was there. I watched him kill Cedric Diggory." "Detention, Mr. Potter. Tonight, my office, 7 o'clock. We'll discuss your tendency toward attention-seeking behavior." "Durzan." After class, Hermione grabbed Harry's arm. "Don't go to that detention. Something's wrong with her. Did you see the way she looked at you? She's not just a bad teacher. She's dangerous. I have to go. If I don't, she'll just give me more detentions. Then, I'm coming with you." "Hermione, you don't have detention. I'll get one. Watch." She marched back into Umbridge's classroom. "Professor Umbridge, I think you're a fraud and a liar. The Ministry is denying Voldemort's return because they're cowards, and you're helping them spread misinformation that will get students killed." "Drink up, Dad." Umbridge's expression turned venomous. "Detention, Miss Granger. Tonight. 7 o'clock. "Perfect," Hermione said sweetly. "See you then." Outside the classroom, Harry grabbed her shoulders. "What did you just do?" "I got detention. So now we're facing whatever she has planned together. Like we always do." The detention was worse than either of them imagined. Umbridge handed them each a long black quill. "You'll be writing lines. Mr. Potter, you'll write, 'I must not tell lies.' Miss Granger, you'll write, 'I must respect my superiors.' Continue until the message sinks in." Harry dipped the quill in the ink pot, but Hermione stopped him. "There's no ink," she said. "You won't need ink," Umbridge said with a smile. Harry wrote the first line. Immediately, searing pain shot through his hand as the words carved themselves into his skin, using his own blood as ink. Beside him, Hermione gasped as the same thing happened to her. "Keep writing," Umbridge said pleasantly. Until the message is clear. They wrote for 3 hours. By the time Umbridge dismissed them, both their hands were bloody and scarred, the words carved so deeply they'd probably never fully fade. Outside the office, Hermione looked at her hand and then at Harry's. She's torturing students. This is a dark artifact. This is illegal even by ministry standards. What do? We document everything, every detention, every scar, every instance of abuse. And Harry, we fight back. Not violently, but strategically. She's not teaching us defense? Fine. We teach ourselves. The idea for Dumbledore's army was born that night. Over the next few weeks, Hermione organized everything with characteristic efficiency. She recruited students from all houses who recognized that Umbridge's refusal to teach practical defense was dangerous. She found them a meeting place, the room of requirement, a secret room that appeared only when needed, and she convinced Harry to be the teacher. Me? Harry protested. Hermione, I'm not a teacher. You're the only one who's actually fought dark magic. You faced Voldemort 3 times and survived. You fought a basilisk, dementors, Death Eaters. The rest of us have only read about this stuff in books. We need you to show us how to actually do it. What about you? You're brilliant at magic. I'm brilliant at theory. You're brilliant at application. Harry, we'll do this together. I'll organize the curriculum and the logistics. You'll teach the practical skills. We'll be co-leaders. The first DA meeting had 20 students. By the third meeting, they had over 30. Word had spread that Harry Potter was teaching real defensive magic, and students were hungry for practical skills that Umbridge refused to provide. Harry taught them everything he knew. Disarming charms, stunning spells, shield charms, the Patronus charm. Hermione structured the lessons, tracked progress, organized study groups for theory. They worked together seamlessly. Harry demonstrating while Hermione explained. Harry correcting technique while Hermione provided strategic context. They functioned as a teaching team so naturally that students started referring to them as the commanders, with a respect that had nothing to do with Harry's fame and everything to do with their competence. You're good at this, Ron observed after one particularly successful lesson. Both of you. It's like watching 2 people who share a brain. We've been doing this for years, Hermione said, working together, finishing each other's thoughts. It's just how we are. It's a bit nauseating, honestly, but also kind of brilliant. The DA became the center of Harry's 5th year. It was the one place where he felt useful, where the trauma of Cedric's death and Voldemort's return translated into something productive. Teaching other students to defend themselves gave Harry purpose when everything else felt meaningless. It also deepened his relationship with Hermione in ways he hadn't anticipated. They spent hours alone together in the room of requirement, planning lessons and practicing spells. They developed a shorthand communication, a glance that meant, move to the next topic. A slight nod that meant, that student needs individual help. A smile that meant, we're doing good work here. One evening after everyone else had left, they were organizing the training dummies when Hermione said quietly, Harry, can I ask you something? Always. Are you okay? Really okay? Because you're so focused on teaching everyone else to fight, but I worry that you're not processing what you went through. That you're using the DA as a distraction from dealing with your trauma. Harry stopped what he was doing and looked at her. Maybe I am. Is that so bad? At least I'm doing something useful instead of just sitting around having nightmares. It's not bad. But Harry, eventually you'll have to deal with it. The trauma doesn't go away just because you're busy. I know. But right now I need to feel like I'm preparing for what's coming. Because it is coming, Hermione. Voldemort's gathering followers. The Ministry's in denial. A war is starting, and we're the only ones actually getting ready for it. We'll face it together, Hermione said, crossing to stand in front of him. Whatever Voldemort does, we'll face it together. Promise? I promise. Harry, I love you. That means I'm not going anywhere. Not when things get dangerous. Not when you're scared. Not when the war actually starts. I'm here. Always. Harry pulled her into a kiss, deep and desperate and full of all the fear and love and determination he couldn't put into words. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Hermione rested her forehead against his. We're going to survive this, she whispered. Both of us. Together. We're going to survive and we're going to win and we're going to have a life after all of this is over. I want that, Harry said. More than anything. A life with you, after the war. After Voldemort, just us. Together. Happy. Then we fight for it. We fight for that future. Together. Always together. The DA continued through the winter, growing stronger and more skilled with each meeting. But in February, disaster struck. Marietta Edgecombe, pressured by her ministry-employed mother, betrayed them to Umbridge. The defense professor raided the room of requirement with ministry officials, catching the DA mid-meeting. Harry and Hermione were arrested along with several other students. Dumbledore took responsibility to protect them, claiming he'd organized the group himself, and fled Hogwarts before he could be imprisoned. Umbridge became headmistress. What followed were the worst months of Harry's time at Hogwarts. Umbridge ruled with authoritarian cruelty. Educational decrees plastered the walls, restricting everything from student gatherings to approved reading materials. She gave Harry detention after detention with the blood quill, carving "I must not tell lies" so deeply into his hand that the scar became permanent. She targeted Hermione too, punishing her for her intelligence, her advocacy, her refusal to submit. "I must know my place" was carved into Hermione's hand so many times that even Madame Pomfrey's healing salves couldn't fully erase it. "This is torture," Ron said furiously one evening, watching Hermione try to write an essay despite her injured hand. "This is actual torture, and no one's stopping her." "Dumbledore's gone," Harry said bitterly. "McGonagall can't act directly without being sacked, and the Ministry supports everything Umbridge does. We're on our own." "Then we fight back," Hermione said, her voice hard with determination. "Not with violence, but we don't submit. We don't let her break us. We survive until Dumbledore can return, or until someone at the Ministry finally sees her for what she is." They survived through sheer stubbornness. Harry continued having nightmares about the graveyard, but now they mixed with nightmares about Umbridge's detentions. His connection to Voldemort grew stronger. He could feel the Dark Lord's emotions more clearly, could sometimes see through his eyes in dreams. The occlumency lessons with Snape were a disaster. Snape's method was to invade Harry's mind repeatedly, forcing him to relive his worst memories while demanding Harry clear his mind of emotion. It was brutal, invasive, and spectacularly ineffective. "He's not teaching me," Harry complained to Hermione after a particularly awful lesson. "He's just torturing me with my own memories. Today he made me relive my parents' deaths 3 times while telling me I was weak for being upset about it. That's not teaching. That's abuse. Harry, you should stop the lessons." "I can't," Dumbledore ordered them. "He thinks the connection to Voldemort is dangerous." "It is dangerous. But there has to be a better way to learn occlumency than having Snape weaponize your trauma." The connection to Voldemort caused the biggest disaster of 5th year. In June, Harry had a vision of Sirius being tortured in the Department of Mysteries by Voldemort. The vision was so vivid, so real, that Harry was convinced Sirius was in mortal danger. "We have to go," Harry said urgently, finding Hermione and Ron in the common room. "Right now, the Department of Mysteries. Voldemort has Sirius." "Harry, wait," Hermione said, her analytical mind already working through the logistics. "How do you know this? Did you see it through your connection to Voldemort?" "Yes. I saw Sirius being tortured." "Hermione, we don't have time. Then it could be a trap. Voldemort knows about your connection. What if he's showing you this vision deliberately? What if he wants you to come to the Department of Mysteries? But what if it's real? What if Sirius actually is being tortured, and I don't go? Then we verify first. Harry, please. Before we do something reckless, let's make sure Sirius is actually in danger." They used Umbridge's fireplace, breaking into her office and using flue powder to contact Grimmauld Place. "Creature," Sirius's house elf answered. "Where's Sirius?" Harry demanded. "Master is out," Creature said with obvious reluctance. "Out where?" Creature is not knowing. Master does not tell Creature his plans. It wasn't definitive. Sirius could be out innocently, or he could be at the Department of Mysteries being tortured. "We're going," Harry decided. "Hermione, I can't take the risk. If there's even a chance Sirius needs help, then we go together," Hermione said. "All of us. But Harry, we go prepared. We bring backup. We don't charge in blindly." They recruited Ron, Ginny, Neville, and Luna. 7 students against whatever waited at the Ministry, but it was the best they could do. The Department of Mysteries was dark and eerie, full of locked doors and strange magical phenomena. They found the Hall of Prophecy, rows upon rows of glowing orbs containing recorded predictions. and waiting for them were Death Eaters. Lucius Malfoy stepped out of the shadows, his wand trained on Harry. "Very good, Potter. Very good indeed. Now if you'll just hand over the prophecy." "What prophecy?" Harry demanded. "The one with your name on it. Row 97. You'll know it when you see it." They found it, a dusty orb labeled with Harry's name and Voldemort's. The moment Harry touched it, the Death Eaters attacked. What followed was chaos. Spells flying in every direction. Shelves of prophecies exploding. Harry's friends fighting for their lives against adult Death Eaters who had no qualms about using deadly force against children. Harry grabbed the prophecy and ran, Hermione right beside him. Behind them, Ron was dueling Rookwood. Ginny and Luna were back-to-back against Dolohov. Neville was fighting Bellatrix Lestrange with more courage than skill. "The exit!" Hermione gasped, pulling Harry through a door into a circular room with doors on all sides. "Harry, which way?" The doors started spinning. When they stopped, all the doors looked identical. "I don't know," Harry admitted. "Hermione, I don't know which door leads out." "Then we pick one and hope. Come on." They burst through a door into a room full of stone arches, one of which contained a fluttering veil that whispered with voices. Before they could process what they were seeing, Bellatrix and Lucius attacked. The duel was brutal. Harry and Hermione fought back to back, their coordination perfect despite the chaos. Hermione cast a shield charm that protected them both. Harry's stunning spell hit Lucius square in the chest. They were holding their own, and then the Order of the Phoenix arrived. Sirius, Remus, Tonks, Moody, Kingsley, adults who actually knew how to fight Death Eaters. The battle intensified. Harry and Hermione were pushed to the side, watching as the real duel unfolded. "He's safe," Hermione said with relief, watching Sirius duel Bellatrix with fierce joy. "Harry, Sirius is safe. It was a trap, just like I thought. Voldemort lured you here." "But why? What does he want?" Harry looked down at the prophecy still clutched in his hand. "This. Voldemort wanted this. Whatever it contained, it was important enough to orchestrate an elaborate trap." "Harry, duck!" Hermione screamed. He dropped just as a curse shot over his head. Bellatrix was running toward them, her face twisted with malice. Sirius intercepted her, dueling with a fury Harry had never seen from his godfather. "Get out of here," Sirius shouted at Harry. "Take the prophecy and go. I'm not leaving you. Go." Bellatrix's curse hit Sirius in the chest. His expression shifted from anger to surprise. He fell backward through the veil and disappeared. Harry screamed, tried to run after him, to pull him back through the veil. But Remus grabbed him, holding him back while Harry fought and screamed and fell apart. "He's gone," Remus said, his voice breaking. "Harry, he's gone. There's nothing we can do." The prophecy fell from Harry's hand and shattered on the stone floor. 6th year. The Horcrux revelation. The summer after Sirius's death was worse than the previous summer, which Harry hadn't thought possible. He'd lost his godfather, watched him die, failed to save him despite the trap being obvious, despite Hermione warning him to verify first, despite every rational indicator that the vision was fake, and Dumbledore had finally explained the prophecy, the real one, since Harry had destroyed the recorded version. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. But he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. Harry was destined to either kill Voldemort or be killed by him. No middle ground, no escape, just two people locked in a death spiral until one of them won. "I'm sorry," Dumbledore had said. "I should have told you years ago, but I hoped there might be another way. I was wrong." Harry spent the summer at the Burrow. The blood wards at Privet Drive had been reinforced, but Dumbledore allowed him to leave for the last few weeks of summer. Hermione was there too, and between them they were a mess of grief and anger and fear. "We need a plan," Hermione said one evening. They were sitting by the pond watching the sunset, both exhausted from pretending to be okay around the Weasleys. "Harry, if the prophecy is real, if you really have to be the one to kill Voldemort, then we need a strategy. We need information about him, about his weaknesses, about how to actually defeat him." "He's immortal," Harry said bitterly. "I watched him return from being basically dead. How do you kill someone who can't die?" There has to be a way. Dark magic always has a counter. We just need to find it. When they returned to Hogwarts for 6th year, Dumbledore summoned Harry for private lessons. I'm going to show you memories, Dumbledore explained. Memories of Tom Riddle, Voldemort, before he became what he is now. By understanding his past, we can understand his present, and more importantly, we can understand his vulnerabilities. What Dumbledore showed Harry over the next several months was horrifying. Tom Riddle had been obsessed with immortality from a young age. He'd researched the darkest magic, asked Slughorn about Horcruxes, objects that contain fragments of a soul split through murder, granting the creator immortality as long as even one Horcrux survived. He made Horcruxes, Harry said, horror dawning. That's why he didn't die when he tried to kill me. He'd already split his soul. And Harry, I believe he made multiple Horcruxes. 6, possibly 7, including the fragment in his body. This is why he's so difficult to kill. Destroying his body isn't enough. We must find and destroy every Horcrux first. How do we destroy them? Basilisk venom. Fiend fire. Anything that damages beyond magical repair. Harry, this is our mission now. Find the Horcruxes. Destroy them. Make Voldemort mortal again. Only then can he be killed permanently. Harry told Hermione everything immediately. She took the information with characteristic calm, immediately shifting into research mode. 6 Horcruxes. That's a lot. We need to figure out what they are and where they're hidden. Voldemort would choose objects that are meaningful to him, things connected to his past or his ideology. They spent 6th year researching Voldemort's history, tracking down clues, piecing together the puzzle. Dumbledore took Harry on a mission to retrieve a locket that turned out to be fake. Someone named R.A.B. had already taken the real Horcrux years ago. It was frustrating and terrifying, but they were making progress. And through it all, Harry's relationship with Hermione deepened in ways that had nothing to do with the war. They were older now, 16, not children anymore. The physical aspect of their relationship evolved naturally, carefully, always respecting boundaries, but also acknowledging the pull between them. There were long nights in the room of requirement, supposedly studying Horcruxes, but actually just holding each other, finding comfort in physical closeness while the world fell apart around them. There were stolen kisses in empty corridors. There were moments where Hermione would fall asleep on Harry's shoulder in the library, and he'd just sit there, memorizing the feel of her, terrified of the prophecy that said one of them might not survive the war. I'm scared, Hermione admitted one night. They were in the room of requirement, lying on a conjured couch, her head on his chest. Harry, I'm so scared that the prophecy is right, that you'll have to face Voldemort alone and I won't be able to protect you. You protect me every day, Harry said. By being here, by helping me research. By loving me when I'm terrified and angry and falling apart. Hermione, you're the reason I think I can actually do this. The reason I want to survive. What if surviving isn't enough? What if... Her voice broke. What if the prophecy means you have to die to kill him? Then I die, and you live. And you build the world we were fighting for. Don't say that. Harry, don't you dare give up before we've even tried. We'll find another way. We'll find all the Horcruxes, we'll destroy them, and we'll figure out how to kill Voldemort without you dying. There has to be a way. Even if there is, I need you to promise me something. If it comes down to a choice, if killing Voldemort means I die, promise me you won't try to stop me, that you'll let me do what needs to be done. I can't promise that. Hermione, no. I love you, Harry. I love you more than I've ever loved anything or anyone, and I can't promise to just stand by and watch you die. Don't ask me to. They held each other in the darkness, both crying quietly, both terrified of a future that seemed increasingly inevitable. In June, Dumbledore was killed by Snape on the astronomy tower. Harry and Hermione witnessed it from below, hidden under the invisibility cloak, unable to intervene. He's gone, Harry said numbly as they watched Snape flee. Dumbledore's dead. Snape killed him. Harry, we need to run. The Death Eaters are still here. But Harry couldn't move, couldn't process. Dumbledore was the most powerful wizard alive, and he was just gone. Murdered by someone they'd trusted, Hermione pulled him away from the astronomy tower, through the chaos of the Death Eater attack, to relative safety. Later, when the castle was secured and the battle over, they sat together in the hospital wing while Madame Pomfrey treated injured students. What do we do now? Hermione asked quietly. Dumbledore was leading the fight against Voldemort. He was the one who knew where the Horcruxes were, how to destroy them. Without him, we continue his work, Harry said, his voice hard with determination. We find the Horcruxes. We destroy them. We kill Voldemort. That's what Dumbledore would want. That's what we have to do. Together? Always together? Ron, who'd been listening from a nearby bed where he was being treated for minor injuries, spoke up. I'm coming too. On this Horcrux hunt or whatever you're planning. I'm not letting you two face Voldemort's followers alone. Ron, this is going to be dangerous. Hermione started. I know, but you're my best friends. Both of you, and I'm not sitting on the sidelines while you risk your lives. So I'm coming. Don't argue. Harry and Hermione looked at each other, communicating silently. Then Harry nodded. Okay. Like it's always been. Like it's always been, Ron agreed. But they all knew it wasn't quite like it had always been. Harry and Hermione were a unit now, bonded by love in ways that went beyond friendship. Ron was essential, valued, needed, but he was also outside their innermost circle in ways that no amount of friendship could completely bridge. It was a dynamic they'd all learned to navigate. But in the stress of a Horcrux hunt, with death a constant possibility, that dynamic would be tested like never before. 7th year, the Horcrux hunt. They didn't return to Hogwarts for 7th year. Instead, Harry, Hermione, and Ron went into hiding, hunting Horcruxes across Britain. They had limited information. Dumbledore had identified some potential Horcruxes before his death, but not all of them, and not where most were hidden. What they knew, Hufflepuff's cup, location unknown, Ravenclaw's diadem, location unknown, Nagini the snake, always with Voldemort. What they had, the fake locket from the cave, with R.A.B.'s note, Gryffindor's sword, which could destroy Horcruxes, and desperation. The first few weeks of the hunt were chaotic. They camped in forests, moved constantly to avoid Death Eater patrols, survived on stolen food and foraged supplies. Hermione had planned extensively. She'd packed a magically expanded bag with books, potions, ingredients, camping gear, everything they might need. I've been preparing since June, she explained as she pulled tent after tent from the small beaded bag. I knew we'd need supplies. I knew we couldn't stay anywhere long, so I packed everything I could think of. You're incredible, Harry said, pulling her into a quick kiss. Absolutely incredible. Ron looked away, giving them privacy but also clearly uncomfortable with the display of affection in such close quarters. Living in a tent together proved challenging in ways none of them had anticipated. The close proximity meant Harry and Hermione's relationship was constantly visible. The way they naturally gravitated toward each other, the casual touches, the private jokes, the way they functioned as a seamless unit, all of it was on full display for Ron. You two are really serious, aren't you? Ron said one evening while they were making dinner. Harry and Hermione were working together with practiced efficiency, Hermione chopping ingredients while Harry stirred the pot, both moving around each other in the tiny tent kitchen like a choreographed dance. We've been together for 3 years, Hermione said, glancing at Ron. Yes, we're serious. I know, it's just, seeing you like this, living together, it's different from seeing you at Hogwarts. You're like a married couple or something. We're not married, Harry said, though he didn't sound opposed to the idea. But yeah, we're committed. She's it for me. She's the person I want to be with. Forever, if she'll have me. Forever, Hermione agreed softly, and the look they shared was so intimate that Ron actually left the tent to give them privacy, but Ron's discomfort was nothing compared to what happened when they found the locket. The real locket Horcrux was retrieved from Dolores Umbridge, who'd somehow acquired it from Mundungus Fletcher, who'd stolen it from Grimmauld Place. Getting it required infiltrating the Ministry using Polyjuice Potion, which was dangerous and terrifying and nearly got them caught multiple times. But they succeeded. They had the locket. The problem was destroying it. Gryffindor's sword could do it, but they'd lost the sword. It had been taken from them during the Ministry infiltration. Without it, they had no way to destroy the Horcrux, so they kept it. Took turns wearing it because leaving it somewhere felt dangerous. The locket was insidious. It amplified negative emotions, whispered fears and insecurities, preyed on the wearer's deepest vulnerabilities. For Harry, it whispered about failure, failing to save Cedric, Sirius, Dumbledore, failing to stop Voldemort, failing to protect Hermione, failing to protect Hermione. For Hermione, it whispered about inadequacy, Not being smart enough, not being useful enough, being a burden instead of an asset. For Ron, it whispered about being unnecessary, being replaceable, being the third wheel in a relationship between two people who loved each other more than they'd ever need him. I can't wear this anymore, Ron said one evening, tearing the locket off. It's driving me mental. You two wear it, you're better at ignoring it. We all wear it equally, Hermione said firmly. That's the agreement. Screw the agreement, you don't know what it's like, what it shows me. We all see things, Harry said quietly. The locket preys on everyone's fears. You're not special. Right. I'm not special. That's exactly what it keeps telling me. That I'm not special. That I'm just the sidekick to the great Harry Potter and his brilliant girlfriend. That you two don't actually need me here. That's the Horcrux talking, Hermione interrupted. Ron, you know that's not true. We need you, because it seems like you two are doing fine, better than fine. You're happy even in this shitty tent eating terrible food while hunting objects that could kill us. You're happy because you have each other. What do I have? The question hung in the air, unanswerable. Ron, Harry tried, but Ron cut him off. I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you two be together and pretend I'm okay with it. I can't wear this Horcrux and listen to it tell me over and over that I'm useless. I'm done. Don't go, Hermione said, her voice breaking. Ron, please. We're so close to figuring this out. Don't leave now. Watch me. He grabbed his pack and disapparated before either of them could stop him. The silence he left behind was deafening. He'll come back, Hermione said, though she sounded uncertain. He just needs time to cool off. He'll come back. And if he doesn't, then we continue without him. Harry, I know that sounds cold, but we can't stop the hunt because Ron's insecure. We have to keep going. I know. But Hermione, the locket was right about one thing. We are happy. Even in this terrible situation, even with Voldemort winning and people dying, we're happy because we have each other. Is that wrong? Should we feel guilty about that? No, Hermione said firmly. Love isn't something to feel guilty about. Being happy with each other doesn't mean we don't care about the war or the people suffering. It means we have something worth fighting for. That's not wrong, Harry. That's human. With Ron gone, the dynamic in the tent shifted dramatically. Suddenly, Harry and Hermione were alone. Truly alone. For the first time in months. No chaperone, no third party, no one to perform normalcy for. They still hunted Horcruxes. Still moved constantly. Still maintained the mission. But the evenings were different. There was more physical affection. Holding each other through the cold nights, finding comfort in touch when words failed. There was more vulnerability, crying together about Dumbledore's death, about Ron's departure, about the seemingly impossible task ahead of them. And there was more intimacy, nothing inappropriate. They were still 17 and in the middle of a war and sleeping in a tent in various forests. But there were long conversations late at night about what they wanted after the war, where they'd live, what they'd do, whether they'd get married, whether they'd have children someday. I want normal, Harry said one night. They were lying close together for warmth, Hermione's head on his chest. After this is all over, I want the most boring, normal life imaginable. A house somewhere quiet. A job that's not dangerous. You. Just you and me and normal. That sounds perfect, Hermione said. Though I might want to do something useful. Maybe work for the ministry, reforming laws about house elves and werewolves and all the discriminatory policies that need changing. Very you. Saving the world, even after we've saved the world. Someone has to. But Harry, I want the normal too. I want mornings where we drink tea and read the paper. I want evenings where we cook dinner together and complain about work. I want weekends where we do absolutely nothing important. I want boring and domestic and peaceful. We'll have that after we kill Voldemort and destroy the Horcruxes and end the war. We'll have exactly that. Promise? I promise. Hermione, I promise we'll survive this and have a life together. She lifted her head to look at him, her eyes serious. Can you actually promise that? The prophecy says one of you has to die. What if that one is you? Then I'll make sure it's not. I'll fight harder than I've ever fought. I'll do whatever it takes to survive, because I want that future with you more than I've ever wanted anything. They kissed then, slowly and tenderly, both acutely aware that every moment together was precious, that the war could take either of them at any time. When they pulled apart, Hermione whispered, "I love you so much. If you die, if I lose you, you won't. We're going to make it. Both of us. Together? Always together." Ron returned in December, appearing in the forest where Harry and Hermione were camped, looking miserable and ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I'm so sorry. The locket messed with my head, but that's not an excuse. I abandoned you. I left you alone when you needed me. I was a terrible friend." "You came back," Harry said. "That's what matters." "No, it's not. I left. I let my jealousy and insecurity drive me away. And I know things are different now. You two are closer than ever, and I'm even more of an outsider than I was before. But I want to be here. I want to help, if you'll let me." Hermione looked at Harry. They had a silent conversation. Should they let him back? Could they trust him not to leave again? Finally, Harry nodded. "You're our friend, Ron. You're part of this. We want you here. But you need to understand, Hermione and I are together. That's not changing. And if you can't handle that, if the jealousy is going to make you leave again, then maybe it's better if you don't come back." "I can handle it," Ron said. "I don't like it. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I can handle it, because I love you both and I'd rather be here with you, even if it's weird and awkward, than be out there alone." "Okay," Hermione said quietly. "Okay, you can stay. But Ron, we're destroying that locket as soon as possible. None of us are wearing it anymore. It's too dangerous." They destroyed the locket the next day. Ron was the one to do it, using Gryffindor's sword, which had appeared in a frozen pond, pulled from the depths by Ron in a moment of genuine heroism. When the locket opened, it showed Ron his worst fears, Harry and Hermione together, telling him he was worthless, saying they'd never needed him. "It's not real," Harry said fiercely. "Ron, it's not real. We need you. We've always needed you." Ron brought the sword down, destroying the Horcrux. The moment it shattered, the oppressive weight that had been hanging over them for months lifted. "That's one down," Hermione said with relief. 5 to go." "I thought there were 4 left." "We miscounted," Harry explained. "Nagini, the cup, the diadem, and one more we haven't identified. Plus whatever's been protecting Voldemort all these years. There has to be a final Horcrux we're missing." They continued the hunt with renewed determination. Broke into Gringotts to steal Hufflepuff's cup, riding out on a dragon which was terrifying and exhilarating, found Ravenclaw's diadem at Hogwarts, returned for the final battle, destroyed both with fiend fire and basilisk venom. And then came the truth Harry had been avoiding. He was the final Horcrux. He learned it through Snape's memories, retrieved after Nagini killed the potions professor on Voldemort's orders. In Snape's dying moments he'd given Harry his memories, showing the full truth. Snape had loved Lily Potter, had spent his entire adult life protecting Harry, because of that love. Had killed Dumbledore at Dumbledore's own request, and had known all along that Harry carried a piece of Voldemort's soul. "You must die," Dumbledore's memory said. "Voldemort tethered you to life by using your blood in his resurrection. But the Horcrux in you must be destroyed for him to be mortal. There's no other way." Harry stood in the pensive room, processing this, feeling Hermione's hand find his. "No," she said. "No, there has to be another way. We'll research soul magic. We'll find a way to extract the Horcrux without killing you. Hermione, we've been researching for months. You know as well as I do that Horcruxes can only be destroyed by destroying their container. I'm the container. Then we don't destroy it. We lock it away somehow. We suppress it. It won't work. And you know it." Harry turned to face her, seeing the tears streaming down her face. "I have to do this. I have to let Voldemort kill me. It's the only way to destroy the Horcrux and make him mortal enough for someone else to finish him. I can't, Harry, I can't just let you walk to your death. You have to. Because if you don't, Voldemort wins. And everyone we love dies. Hermione, please. I need you to be strong. I need you to let me do this." She was sobbing now, and Harry pulled her close, holding her while she fell apart. "I love you," she said through tears. "I love you so much, and I can't lose you, I know. I love you too. But Hermione, this is what the prophecy meant. Neither can live while the other survives. As long as I'm alive with this Horcrux in me, Voldemort can't truly be killed. I have to die so he can die. What if you survive? When Voldemort tried to kill you as a baby, you survived. What if? Then I come back to you, and we have that normal life we talked about. But Hermione, you have to prepare for the possibility that I don't survive. That this is really goodbye. Don't say that. Please don't say that. Harry held her tighter, memorizing the feel of her in his arms, knowing this might be the last time. If I don't come back, if Voldemort kills me and I actually die, promise me you'll keep fighting. You'll help Ron and everyone else defeat Voldemort. You'll survive. You'll have the life we talked about, even if I'm not there to share it with you. I can't promise that. A life without you isn't a life I want. Promise me anyway. Please, Hermione. I need to know you'll be okay. I promise, she whispered. But Harry, I'm going to hate you forever if you don't come back. Fair enough. They stood together in the room of requirement, holding each other while the Battle of Hogwarts raged outside. Eventually, they had to let go. Harry had to walk into the Forbidden Forest. Had to face Voldemort. Had to die so everyone else could live. I love you, Harry said one last time. I love you too. Always. He walked away before he could change his mind. Walked into the forest where Voldemort and the Death Eaters waited. Walked to his death with the same courage he'd shown facing dragons and dementors and dark wizards. Harry Potter, Voldemort said softly. The boy who lived. Come to die. Yes, Harry said simply. How disappointing. I expected more fight from you. But no matter. Avada Kedavra. Green light. Pain. Darkness. And then, Harry woke in a white space that might have been King's Cross Station. Or might have been his own mind. Dumbledore was there, looking younger and healthier than Harry had ever seen him. Professor? Hello, Harry. I expect you have questions. Am I dead? That depends on your perspective. The Horcrux within you has been destroyed by Voldemort's curse. But you have a choice. You can move on, find peace beyond the veil, or you can return. Voldemort used your blood in his resurrection, tethering you to life. That tether remains. You can go back if you wish. If I go back, can I kill him? Can I actually end this? Yes, he's mortal now. All the Horcruxes are destroyed, including the one within you. He can be killed permanently. Then I'm going back. I made a promise. To Hermione. To everyone. I'm going back and I'm ending this. Then go, Harry, and well done. I'm very proud of you. Harry opened his eyes in the Forbidden Forest. Voldemort was celebrating, thinking he'd won. The Death Eaters were cheering. Harry played dead. Let himself be carried back to the castle. Waited for the right moment. When Voldemort called for Hogwarts' surrender, when he demanded Harry's friends bow to him, Harry revealed himself. I'm alive, he said, standing up from Hagrid's arms. And you can't kill me, Tom. Not anymore. All the Horcruxes are destroyed. You're mortal now. Just a man. And today, I'm going to kill you. The final battle was brief. Voldemort cast the killing curse. Harry cast a disarming spell. The wand Voldemort held, the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in existence, recognized Harry as its true master and refused to kill him. The curse rebounded. Voldemort fell. Dead. Truly, finally, dead. The silence that followed was absolute. And then, chaos. Cheering, crying, people running to Harry, pulling him into hugs, celebrating the end of the war. But Harry only had eyes for one person. Hermione was running toward him through the crowd, her face streaked with tears, her expression a mixture of joy and disbelief and desperate relief. They collided in the middle of the great hall, holding each other so tightly neither could breathe, both crying and laughing and trying to say everything at once. You came back, Hermione sobbed. You died and you came back. I promised you, Harry said. I promised we'd have a life together. I wasn't breaking that promise. I love you so much. Don't ever die again. Never again. I promise. They kissed there in the ruined great hall, surrounded by the debris of battle and the celebrating crowd, and neither cared who saw or what anyone thought. The war was over. Voldemort was dead. And they'd survived. Together. Epilogue. 19 years later, Platform 9 3/4 was crowded with families saying goodbye to students heading back to Hogwarts. Harry Potter stood with his wife Hermione and their 2 children. James Sirius, 11, about to start his first year, and Lily Luna, 9, still 2 years away from her own Hogwarts letter. Are you nervous? Hermione asked James, her hand finding Harry's automatically. A bit, James admitted. What if I'm not in Gryffindor? You were both Gryffindors. Actually, I was almost a Ravenclaw, Hermione said. The hat deliberated for several minutes. I chose Gryffindor because your father was there. You chose Dad over being in the smart house? Being with your father was the smart choice, Hermione said, squeezing Harry's hand. Best decision I ever made. What if I'm in Slytherin? James asked quietly. Then you'll be in Slytherin, Harry said. And we'll be proud of you. The house doesn't make the person, James. Your choices make you who you are. The hat sorts you based on your values, but you still get to decide what to do with those values. Ron and his wife Luna approached with their own children. Ron and Harry had rebuilt their friendship after the war, though there was always a slight distance, a recognition that Harry and Hermione's bond was something Ron could never quite be part of. But they were brothers in all the ways that mattered. Ready for Hogwarts? Ron asked James. Your dad and I had some adventures there. I've heard the stories. The troll, the basilisk, the dragon. Most of those were your dad and Hermione, actually, Ron admitted. I was more of the support team. But they needed me, even if they were disgustingly in love the whole time. We weren't disgustingly in love until 4th year, Harry corrected. You were absolutely disgustingly in love, Ron said. You just didn't realize it until 4th year. The rest of us knew. The Hogwarts Express whistle blew. James hugged his parents goodbye and boarded the train, waving from the window as it pulled away. Harry and Hermione stood together, watching their son head toward the same adventures they'd had, hoping his journey would be easier, less tragic, less marked by war and loss. Do you ever regret it? Hermione asked quietly. Choosing me over a normal life? You could have dated other people, explored other options. Never, Harry interrupted. Hermione, you're the reason I survived, not just the war. Life. You made life worth living when everything else was terrible. You made me believe in futures and happiness and love. I'd choose you every single time, in every single timeline, without hesitation. Good, Hermione said, smiling. Because you're stuck with me. Forever. Forever, Harry agreed. They walked out of King's Cross hand in hand, the same way they'd walked through Hogwarts, through the Horcrux hunt, through the war. Together as they'd always been, as they'd always be. Some love stories were written in grand declarations and dramatic gestures. Theirs was written in quiet moments, holding hands under hospital beds, teaching each other spells in empty classrooms, dancing in a tent while the world burned outside, choosing each other every single day for 19 years and counting. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.